Iki berarti tak anu sik iki. Sik. Sik kula anu sik. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Welcome to the 4th English Language and Literature International Conference, Creative and Innovative Learning Strategies in the Field of Language, Literature, Linguistics, and Translation in New Normal Era. My name is Siti Aima, acting as the Master of Ceremony for this event. On behalf of the host, Fakultas Bahasa dan Budaya Asing, Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang, we extend our greatest appreciation to each and every one of you for being able to join this virtual conference. Ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed, let me inform you the housekeeping rules. As Fakultas Bahasa dan Budaya Asing, Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang will record the whole conference. So by attending this session, you acknowledge that your image and comments may be recorded and rebroadcasted. For those who want to give questions, please type your question in the chat box on Zoom or YouTube by mentioning your name, affiliation, and city. Then write to whom the question is addressed. Later, in the session of discussion for the plenary session, the moderator will summarize and deliver the question to the speakers. After all sessions end, you will be given a link to complete the evaluation questionnaire. Make sure you complete the questionnaire to be recorded in attendance. The link to download attendance list will be provided after you submit your feedback, and materials will be provided in the website of ELLiC. The parallel session will start at 1 p.m., so you are invited to join us at 12:45 p.m. Make sure you have checked the program book to know in what room you are scheduled. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the event. And at this moment, I would like to welcome the distinguished guests joining the conference today. The first one, the Honorable Professor Dr. Joko Nurkamto, MPD, the President of Teflin Indonesia. Honorable Dr. Aslam Han bin Samashan, the Executive Vice Chairman of American Education Group Malaysia, UK, and China. Associate Professor Dr. Mazura from University Pendidikan Sultan Idris, Malaysia. Sabrina Sunhe, PhD from National Institute of Education, Singapore. Komraj Patanason, PhD from Konkan University, Thailand. Rector of Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang, represented by the first Vice Rector, Dr. Budi Santoso, MSI, MPD. The Dean of Fakultas Bahasa dan Budaya Asing, Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang, Ibu Muhimmatul Ifadah, MPD, all presenters and participants. Once again, thank you very much for coming to this international conference today during the outbreaking pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to request you to listen to the national anthem of Indonesia, Indonesia Raya, and Muhammadiyah hymn, Sang Surya. Ladies and gentlemen, to welcome all distinguished guests and participants, we would like to welcome the chairman of the committee, Bapak Heri Dwi Santoso M.Hum.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable, our invited speakers, the Honorable Rector of Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang, which is represented by Dr. Budi Santosa, MSc Med, as the Vice Rector 1, the Honorable Ms. Muhammadul Ifadah, MPD, the Dean of the Faculty of Foreign Language and Culture, Fakultas Bahasa dan Budaya Asing, Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang, and the honorable presenters and participants. And also, the honorable all distinguished guests of these events. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin, praise to Allah, God the Almighty. First of all, allow me to extend my warmest greetings and welcome you to the 4th English Language and Literature International Conference, which is held by Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang, with theme Creative and Innovative Learning Strategies in the fields of language, literature, linguistics, and translation in New Normal Era. This edition of ELLiC today is a special one. The outbreak of COVID-19 has changed our lives so much. It forces us to change how we interact, how we communicate, and how we collaborate with each other. In this situation, we do not give up, but we fight. The virtual conference by Zoom is one of our attempts to move on to keep developing education. Of course, with you, the speakers, presenters, and audience of this conference. Today, I proudly present the outstanding speakers of our conference today. The first is Dr. Aslam Khan bin Samas Khan, the Executive Vice Chairman of American Education Group, Council Member of NAPE, and Vice President of MAE in Malaysia, UK, and China. And then the second one is Dr. Sabrina Sunhi, PhD, from National Institute of Education, Singapore. And the third one is Professor Dr. Joko Nurkamto, MPD, President of Teflin Indonesia, a professor at UNS Surakarta, Indonesia. And the fourth speaker is Dr. Homraj Patanason, from Khon Kaen University, Thailand, and the speaker is Associate Professor Masura Mastora binti Muhammad, PhD, from University Pendidikan Sultan Idris, Malaysia. Let me also inform you that there are 104 presenters and 87 participants who are teachers, lecturers, undergraduate, graduate, and postgraduate students from Indonesia, Malaysia, and Bangladesh. Your contributions are really meaningful to us. And the committee would like to thank to the Rector of Unimus, Professor Dr. Masruki, which is represented by Dr. Budi Santosa, MSc Med, as the Vice Rector 1 and the Dean of Faculty of Foreign Language and Culture, Ms. Muhammadul Ifada, MPD, for their full support. Last, I would like to kindly request Dr. Budi Santosa as Vice Rector 1 to officially open the conference. We expect all presenters and participants to have a wonderful conference at present. Enjoy our hospitality. Thank you very much. Stay safe and stay healthy. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
It is now an honor for me to invite the Rector of Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang, represented by the first Vice Rector, Dr. Budi Santoso, MSc MEd, to kindly deliver the opening remarks and officially open our conference.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Respectable Professor Dr. Joko Nurkamto, Dr. Aslam Khan bin Samas Khan, Associate Professor Dr. Masyura binti Muhammad, Comrades Patanason PhD, Sabrina Sanha PhD, Honorable Dean Fakultas Bahasa dan Budaya Asing, Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang, all the committee, thank you very much, and all the presenter and participants. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. May Allah sending this blessing to all of us in this very special occasion for English language, literature, and international conference of Fakultas Bahasa dan Budaya Asing, Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang. I would like to welcome warmly to Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang, especially to Fakultas Bahasa dan Budaya Asing at international conference, even though we are virtual. Due to the pandemic, we could not manage face interaction, but I do believe that it will not become a loss for conference. I do hope that all of us will be safe, healthy, and happy to get this through. And I hope this international conference will give to benefit to all of us. And also I hope the honorable will contribute their expertise and experience so as to improve our knowledge. And distinguished participants and participants who are going to share the great ideas and experience during the conference. Finally, congratulate to all of FBBA team for this international conference. You did great job. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. May this conference run well and we could get the most benefit from it. Thank you. Have a great everyone. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ladies and gentlemen, this international conference has officially been opened. It means that the plenary session will proceed in no time.
Tantangan besar bagi perguruan tinggi saat ini adalah bagaimana mempersiapkan generasi muda untuk menghadapi tuntutan kemajuan zaman. Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang hadir tak hanya mengejar ranking, namun juga mencetak lulusan yang turut berkontribusi pada ekonomi dan kemajuan sosial serta berorientasi pada kelompok lintas multidisiplin ilmu. Ada 8 fakultas di Unimus yang terus melakukan inovasi pembelajaran demi menghasilkan lulusan yang siap menghadapi tantangan globalisasi. Fakultas-fakultas tersebut diantaranya Fakultas Ilmu Keperawatan dan Kesehatan, Fakultas Kedokteran, Fakultas Kesehatan Masyarakat, Fakultas Bahasa dan Budaya Asing, Fakultas Matematika dan Ilmu Pengetahuan Alam, Fakultas Teknik, Fakultas Ekonomi, dan Fakultas Kedokteran Gigi. Masuk Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang bisa lewat jalur tes atau melalui jalur prestasi, meliputi penelusuran siswa berprestasi, pemikat, penelusuran minat dan bakat, jalur bebas tes tulis, tersedia pula beasiswa Probea, program mahasiswa Duafa dan Perkoni, penelusuran atlet KONI, serta jalur khusus bagi kader Muhammadiyah dan para hafiz. Bidik misi atau Kartu Indonesia Pintar. Hubungi bagian PMB di kampus Jalan Kedung Mudu Raya nomor 18 Semarang atau klik pmb.unimus.ac.id. Unimus, a university for the excellent.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 4th English Language and Literature International Conference. And this is the moment that we have been waiting for, plenary session. And in this plenary session, we have Associate Professor Dr. Mazura from Malaysia, Comrades Patanason PhD from Thailand, Sabrina Sunhe PhD from Singapore, Dr. Aslam Han bin Samash Han from Malaysia, and Professor Dr. Joko Nurkamto MPD from Indonesia, who are going to discuss creative and innovative learning strategies in new normal era. For accompanying them in the session, I would like to invite the lecturer of Fakultas Bahasa dan Budaya Asing, Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang, Ibu Yesika Maya Oktarani M. Hum, to be a moderator.
Thank you, Bu Aima. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. All right, due to the pandemic, and we are now in hall of Unimus, so allow me to wear mask. So hopefully my voice is still clearly heard. Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor for me to accompany all of you to have plenary session, and we're going to invite distinguished speakers. There are 5 of them, as mentioned by Bu Aima and Pak Heri. But before, allow me to say hello to everyone. Hopefully everyone happy, healthy, and safe, as Pak Budi said before. And in this occasion, first of all, I'd like to tell you the agenda for the plenary discussion. So at the beginning, we're going to listen to all of presentation from distinguished speakers. First, we're going to listen from Associate Professor Dr. Mazura. Then the next will be Mr. Comrades Patanasorn, PhD, continued by Ms. Sabrina Sunhe, and then Dr. Aslam Han, and Professor Dr. Joko Nurkamto, MPD. And then after that, we will continue with the question and answer sessions. However, if you already have questions in between the presentations, then you can easily type in the chat box. Don't forget to mention your name and rename your profile. And then the question and answer session will be until 12 today. And for its presenter, we're going to invite all of you to talk around 20 to 30 minutes each, and then after that, again, followed by question and answer session. All right, without any further ado, first we would like to invite the Dean of Faculty of Language and Communication, Sultan Idris Education University, Malaysia. She is Associate Professor in TESL or Applied Linguistics, yeah. Mazura binti Muhammad, PhD. She pursued her degree, doctoral degree in University of Lancaster, UK. And she has so many achievements, so I'm sorry, doctor, I cannot read all of them. But the most interesting to me is she won gold award in MNNF network, and she also participate actively in community businesses, and she also won Anugerah Perhikmatan Cemerlang in Malaysia for 2 times, if I'm not mistaken. And the publication also a lot, but today she will be happy to share related to corpus linguistics, language learning, historical exploration, and visual analysis. So basically, it's about creative language learning tools using a postcard. So how is it like? Let's invite Dr. Mazura. Time is yours, Dr. Mazura.
Hi, good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Morning.
My name is Mazura. I would like to thank Fakultas Bahasa and Budaya Asing, Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang, distinguished Vice Rector, Dr. Budi Santos. Thank you for the invitation. Okay, thank you for the invitation. And today, I would like to welcome all the deans from Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang, as well as the distinguished plenary speakers. Some of them I know, some of them is a very good introduction for me. Now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, allow me to talk about about my presentation today, which is entitled Picture Postcards and Historical Exploration using corpus-based visual analysis towards creative language learning. Next, please. Thank you. Okay, the overview of my talk. On my first slide, first I would like to introduce to you the benefits of corpus linguistics, specifically the benefits of corpus linguistics in teaching and learning of languages. Next, I will talk about picture postcards, and then I will explore or explain to you, not yet, darling, okay, explain to you the aim of my study. Then I'll move forward to the methodology of this study. And then I will tell you about the historical exploration using corpus-based visual analysis, as well as language learning strategies. Okay, next. Thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is an undeniable fact that corpus linguistics has a lot of benefits. Today, I'm going to concentrate on language learning. Now, what is corpus linguistics? It's a large collection of data containing natural occurring language, okay? It is an authentic language. It is a language that we use every day. It is not a textbook language, but it is a language that people use, current way of using language. Now, if you would like to identify what are the ways that people use language, then corpus linguistics will be a very good tool for everybody. Now, with corpus linguistics, you are, in the language perspective, you are able to investigate various patterns. For example, lexicogrammatical, that means you look at words and then you look at grammar, you look at words only, you can look at discourse and then you can elaborate on discourse analysis. You can use morphology if you want. So corpus linguistics have a lot of benefits for language purposes. The benefits is endless, okay? Now also for teachers, corpus linguistics is a very good tool for materials development. With corpus linguistics, since it is based on natural occurring language, then you can develop what you call materials, your teaching materials based on this data. For example, you collect test papers or the writing of the students, and you would like to highlight their problems in terms of their writing, any grammatical aspects. Now, corpus linguistics is the best resort. Okay. Besides that, you can help. Corpus linguistics can help enhance your classroom activities, and today I will show you one of it. Okay. All right. Next. Now, for your information, this project is my latest study, and I am doing this with museum, the state of Pahang State Museum, which is one of the state in Malaysia, and they are giving us some funding to help us with corpus linguistics. So our corpus linguistics include the written form as well as the spoken form. When we went to Museum Pahang, we realized that they have an extensive collection of postcards. And these are postcards from yesteryears, not the current postcards, postcard of yesteryears. Hence, it dawned upon me, this is an interesting topic. And since Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang is inviting me, and I would not like to let them down, and I would like to talk of something new. So I'm talking about my latest research, which is in the process, not yet completed. Okay. Now, for your information, ladies and gentlemen, in America, the inception of postcards began in 1899. Okay, 1898. Sorry. Okay. However, in Malaysia, there is no traces of literature about the inception of postcards in Malaysia. So when we went to this museum in Negeri Pahang, we realized that these postcards about Malaysia has started in 1900s, and some of which we have not traced, but I know during post-war, Second War, during the colonization, where British come in, postcards are quite popular. So we decided to use postcard as one of the data for our study. Okay, in yesteryears, postcard serve as a means of communication. So during the colonization years, people, expatriates will come who are in Malaysia.
Wait. Okay. All right.
Okay, novelty items sought by collectors as well as hobbies. Okay, and finally, in our case, postcards can be used for the teaching and learning. Okay, next. Okay, I'm going to explore on next, please. Okay, the aims of the study is to investigate picture postcards. And then I would like to show you how picture postcards can be used for historical exploration, and then how postcards can be used as creative language activities. Okay, next, please. Okay, now, as I mentioned previously, as aforementioned, this study is a collaboration with the Pahang State Museum under the curator and the director of Pahang State Museum is Datuk Farid. And in this postcard, there are about 100 postcards. Actually, there are more, okay? So 100 postcards from 5 states in Malaysia, including Singapore. And these postcards depicts pictures of places, buildings in Malaysia and Singapore, the people, the activities conducted, as well as sceneries. As I mentioned just now, it encompasses 5 states of Malaysia and Singapore. Okay, all right. Next. Okay, this is the sample of the postcards. Next, please. Okay. For example, the first picture, the first postcard is from Penang, and this is, of course, for Penang Hill. Okay. The second picture is from Johor. The third picture is a building in Malacca, which is Afamosa. And the third one is the later a picture of a building, railway station in Kuala Lumpur. Okay, next. Okay, these are activities. Okay, and behind it, there are also years stated there. Okay, so this is a man pulling the bullock cart, which is our main means of transportation. Paddy field, there are some farmers at the paddy field, and then traditional costume. And then the last one is how Aborigines stayed in a wren previously. Okay, and for your information, all these postcards were scanned using one app in our phone, and then when we capture it, we realize that it is more accurate as compared to the original. So this is one of the intention of the Pahang State Museum is to capture or digitalize all their postcards, pictures, photos of their kings and queens, and so that they can be preserved for a future generation. Okay, what do we do with these postcards? Okay, next. Okay, sorry. Now, this is from the corpus linguistics perspective. Okay, next. Okay, some of these postcards have written, they are written, and you can see some of them have years. Okay, and what we do is, this is what we call diachronic analysis of the diachronic analysis of the postcards based on the years. So we look at the preface, that is the date, the address, like this postcard. Then we look at the salutation, dear John, dear what, okay. Then the main messages, and then we annotate these segments, okay. Then we look at the closing, then we look at the signature, and finally we will look at the images. So this one could be what we did. We are still in the process of what do you call it, analyzing this, because we are still in the process of scanning. In one day we can scan the postcard for about like 200 postcards, and then this, as I mentioned, this study is still ongoing. So if in terms of years, and then in terms of diachronic analysis, you will see the differences of, for example, the preface. And it is interesting study that we can see that in during colonial years, there are different ways of writing preface. as well as messages. But we realize that salutation is always the same. They use dear, my darling, but of course images would be another interesting perspective whereby we can see the changes or the evolution of our culture through the years since the colonization era through now. So this collection of postcards should not stop now. It should continue, what do you call it? Continue being digitalized, continue being accumulated, because based on visual analysis, you can see you can conduct wonderful diachronic analysis of what happened or the evolution of our culture, of our heritage through these images. Okay, so and we feel that this is a very interesting topic to look at. Okay, so I'm not going to elaborate on corpus linguistics since our conference or seminar is about English language, literature, and international. ELLiC is about creative teaching and learning. So I'm going to look at how we use these postcards as creative language learning tool. Okay, next. Okay, creative language learning perspective. Next. Okay, now what I did, these are two ways. I'm going to give two options. It's either face-to-face learning, because in OPSI we are doing hybrid, and I'm going to show you how I incorporate it into HAS PDPR or remote learning. So for those who are able to do face-to-face with me, I will provide them with these postcards. Okay, and these postcards are laminated because it's quite it's a treasure. Okay, and then I'll give them extensive a huge map of Malaysia, and I'll give them each group to do one state, and then they will try. In fact, I deleted all the names of the location of these places. Okay, for geography classes, for example, this would be a fascinating whereby this is more of indirect learning. They learn via exploration. They look at the postcards, they try to see what about the, and then try to match it to the map. Okay, and then there are other ways of doing it. One is finding places. That means from the postcards, they determine the location of these buildings or places of the images inside the map. Okay, there are other ways whereby they talk about the pictures. If you would like to promote speaking skills. Okay, all right. Next, I will show you further how I utilize. Okay, now from first I gave them the map, then I used the postcards, gave them the postcards. What I did was matching postcard to places, postcard display, that means they do that an exhibition after they have matched it. Then after that, they can be make speaking classes, and this is where online takes place. Okay, all right, next. Okay, for teaching and learning PDPR, once I have done that, given them students who are online, they will see a digital form of the Malaysian map as well as the postcards. Those who are able to do face-to-face with me, then they will see, they can touch and they can look at the postcards, okay? So after that, so how do I combine these classes where where remote learning as well as face-to-face is occurring? It's like I will ask them to use all the tools. For example, if I would like, my students came up with
Okay, and another connection problem, still waiting.
very good
Doctor.
Pass.
Dr.
Are
Mazura,
you
can
okay?
you hear me?
Yes.
You've been stopping just now. Maybe you
Stop.
can repeat a little bit.
Okay.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, clearly now.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So, for example, podcast, I utilize it in my classroom, and then I will. This is to concentrate on their speaking skills, and I ask them to elaborate on the use of postcard, the pictures as well, the pictures on the postcards, and I ask them to elaborate the activities using a lot of what do you call this? A lot of adjectives as well as verbs that to vividly or accurately describes the activities or the buildings or the sceneries. Okay, and another one is student loves to use IG or Instagram. For your information, Instagram has a fascinating filter where they can provide filter as well as songs, which is free of charge. So they don't have to worry about copyright. So this IG or TikTok is a wonderful tool, and then it's the latest tool that our teenager students, our students love to utilize, and they utilize it every day in their daily lives. So using TikTok as well as IG to talk about picture postcards, depending on to conduct their exhibition. Okay, all right. Next, please. That's it. Have I go to? Okay. All
Thank
right.
you. Let's give virtual applause for Dr. Mazura. Thank you. You're so
Sorry
kind.
for the technical error.
It's all right. It's same as here. Sometimes we miss the connection.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. You're so kind because you spent 20 minutes. So we still have enough time for
Yes.
discussion later.
Yeah.
Thank you once again.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Ladies and gentlemen, after we learn how we can use postcard as tools to learn speaking from Dr. Mazura, then we will move to the next bit. But I just want to remind you again, if you have any question, you can directly type in the chat box, and then our team later will collect. And at the end of the presentations, we're going to read all of the questions. All right. And before we invite for the next speaker, I'd like to please all of you, if you need to grab some coffee or tea, because it's break time, it's all right, but make sure that you're still here because we're going to listen to the next one, which is also the topic will be very interesting. All right. Next speaker, next distinguished speaker is Mr. Comrades Patanasorn, PhD. He is assistant professor in applied linguistics, and he is now head of English department, chair of the Bachelor of Arts in English program in Khon Kaen University, Thailand. Hello, Dr. Comrades.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, hopefully pandemic is over in Thailand or not yet?
Well, I think the situation is similar around the world,
Okay.
but it's improving.
Yeah,
Definitely.
but it's leading to be a better condition, hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All
it
right.
is.
Okay. Before we invite Dr. Comrades to talk, allow me to read his CV. But again, unfortunately, I cannot read all of them because lots of them. And just a little introduction. He pursued his PhD in applied linguistics in Northern Arizona University, USA, as well as his master degree as well in the same uni. And he has so many publications and researches. But today, his focus will be on task repetition in L2 pedagogy. And the purpose of this talk is provide us with the background and the conceptual underpinning of task repetition as a summary of past and current research, and also suggestion for future research. And the talk will also include practical guidelines for us in applying tasks in foreign language classroom. So without further ado, please, Dr. Comrade van Rennershoorn, your time is start now.
Okay, thank
Please.
you. Good morning, everyone. Senang bertemu denganmu. Is that how you say it? I'm not sure.
Way. Well done.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me as a participant in the plenary speech. I'd like to say hello to all my co-plenary speakers, and I look forward to everybody's talk also. So let me allow myself to share the screen here. Okay, so for my talk this morning, there'll be stretches where I'll be talking, but there will also be at certain points where I'd like everyone to participate. Okay, is that all right?
Yeah,
maybe
sure.
I could ask a question and you could answer
Sure.
it in the chat box, right? Or
Yes.
maybe send a reaction. Okay.
Yes.
So, so the conference's theme is creative and innovative learning strategies, right? But when you look at my topic, task repetition, it seems to contrast the idea of innovation and creativity because of the word repetition. So my goal today is to try to show you that task repetition from a TESOL standpoint or from a second language acquisition research standpoint is actually more interesting than what you may think, right? Despite the name repetition. Okay, so English as a foreign language in Thailand or in many other countries in Southeast Asia, English is not used as one of the languages. Thailand is a monolingual society, all right? So English is not used outside. And so English is taught inside classrooms, and teachers are usually restricted to a curriculum, right? In this curriculum, it could be a grammatical based curriculum where you go by grammatical topic to grammatical topic, or it might be a situational kind of syllabus where you move from one situation to the next situation. So the idea of repetition here is that it might not be as active as one might think in a classroom. There is actually not a lot of room for repetition because we have to consistently move from topic to topic in the curriculum, okay? And what's more, the repetition that I'm discussing is task repetition. So it's not the same type of repetition when you think of drills or grammatical exercises from the behaviorist point of view. Okay. All right, so the outline of my talk is the meaning of tasks. I'm going to talk about the meaning of task repetition as well, the theoretical underpinnings, and share with you one of my studies. Okay, so if everybody looks on the screen here, you could see this is a sample task. And what you see is a hotel, all right? And there's information about the room, the hotel, and facilities, okay, in the hotel. And this type of information would be used in a kind of a role play task where students may act as a hotel receptionist. Okay, so this is where I'd like you to participate now. Okay, so if you were doing a hotel receptionist task where you play the hotel receptionist, maybe can you type maybe a couple of expressions in English or questions in English that you think a hotel receptionist would use, because their job is usually to take reservations right? Maybe check in and check out guests. Okay, so I'd like to invite everyone to maybe just take a minute if you can type any expression in English that may be used in this task.
So we should type in the chat box, yeah?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, I will allow all participants to participate, not me.
All right.
Okay, participant, you all invited to type something, the expression.
So if you were a hotel receptionist and maybe you were taking a reservation, you pick up the phone, what would be the first thing you might say?
I will say hello.
Hello, yeah.
After.
Okay. Mhm.
Okay, audience, please.
Okay. Is there any?
Okay, you can
Okay, as a
respond here.
customer, great. What can I do for you? Very good. May I help you? Nice. All right. Welcome, Happy Hotel. May I help you? All right. Nice, nice hotel name. Okay. Okay, so you can see from the examples there are some similarities in at least the purpose of the expressions are similar, right? How can I help you, right? What can I do for you, right? There's a greeting and then there's a question asking, okay, if you can be of any assistance. So imagine doing this task, let's say, every day. You work as a hotel receptionist. You work as a hotel receptionist. You do this task every day. In a matter of maybe just a day, you would probably already be fluent with this language, right? You'll be able to use these expressions fluently, right? So the idea of task repetition in the classroom is trying to get learners to perform tasks with the same purposes so that they get used to or get practice or maybe create language that is necessary for certain situations. Right? Okay. And you probably notice from your answers, even though the function is the same, the purpose is the same, but you use distinctive expressions. They are not exactly the same. So when we talk about repetition, it's the repetition of the task, not actually the repetition of the language that is used. All right. So what you are repeating is the cognitive processes and the experience. Okay, what you see here next is a participant from one of my studies. Okay, and in this study, the participant or my student actually was asked to do three interviews. So he was playing the role of a police officer, and he had to interview 3 witnesses who were at the robbery scene. Right. So I'm going to play just a minute of each video, and I'm going to ask you what you might have noticed from the student repeating the task 3 times. โอเคเอาเริ่มจากอ่านบทอันนี้กัน
I understand you were the key witness for the robbery.
Yes, I was one of the customers at the bank.
Are you okay to answer some question for me?
Sure, but I don't know how much I can help.
I want to know about the time of
The robbery?
yes, yeah, sorry.
Okay, what time was the robbery? It was when the bank was open, so I think the bank opens at 9, so around 9 o'clock.
The thief look like
What did they look
look
like?
like?
They were wearing black jacket, black trousers,
I couldn't see their face because they're wearing.
Okay, so from his first attempt, all right, he asked question about the time, but he used more like a incomplete sentence and not really a question form, right? And for his second question, he tried to ask about the appearance of the robbers. Okay, so in the next video, he is interviewing another teacher who is playing another witness. Okay, so he's doing the same task but with another teacher, and maybe you can compare his the second round question with the first one.
I understand you were the key witness for robbery.
Yes, I was one of the customers in the bank.
Are you okay to answer some questions for me?
Sure, I don't know how much help I'll be.
I know what time is happened about 9 o'clock.
Do you know what time it happened? At 9 o'clock? Yes, it happened 9 o'clock.
I want to know about in SCB Bank there is a security man, right?
Yes.
How many
Okay,
security?
so the second time he did the task, the first question had the same purpose. He wanted to know what time the robbery took place. But you can tell that the structure of the question is different from the first one. The first one was more like a sentence and then a question tag at the end. Still ungrammatical. The second attempt is still ungrammatical, but he's using now more like a question form, right? And furthermore, his second question changed. The second question was now not about the appearance of the robbers, but was actually about if there were any security guards. All right. Now let's listen to the third one, okay, and see if there are any changes.
I understand you were the key witness for the lottery.
Yes, I was one of the customers in the bank.
Are you okay to answer some questions for me?
Sure, I don't know how much help I'll be.
What time is happened?
What time did it happen? It happened late afternoon.
How did you feel?
How did I feel during that time? Well, I was very scared. I was very scared.
The chef of thief look like the chef.
The rubber?
Yeah.
The rubber. Okay, you mean the rubber, no?
Yeah.
Okay, so in his third attempt, again, his first question about the time. But if you notice, the form of the question has actually improved a lot in his third attempt because he asked, when did it happen? Okay, even though contextually he should ask when did the robbery occur. But compared to the first and second attempt, it's much improved in the third attempt. And this is from the student reconstructing the language himself from what he knows and probably from the implicit feedback that he received. And the next question was different from the first and second question, because this time he asked the witness how the witness felt. Right? So you can see in task, this is an example of task repetition, which is different from the behavioral aspect of drill. You see that there are no scripts here. So what is being repeated is the task. Okay, it's not the language. The student constructs his own language. Right? Okay, so just give me here.
I understand you were...
So here are the couple of things that that you might get from this example here is that the participant rephrased the question in each iteration or repetition. Some more questions were added, right? And even the question was corrected, right? And he became more fluent, right? And these are suggested to be as the positive effects of task repetition, right? So before we go on to more, I gave you an example first of what task repetition might look like in a classroom or in a research study, because and then go into the definitions. So you can use that as reference, right, throughout my talk, for the rest of my talk. First of all, we have to understand what a task is. So a task, first of all, has a non-linguistic outcome, right? So like in the example there, the outcome was to get information from witnesses, right? It wasn't about practicing question forms, but the design of the task required the students to use questions, okay? So that was in the design, but the student himself, he was interested in the information that he was getting. So a non-linguistic outcome. Second, a task should be or must be meaning focused. Again, this is similar to the first one. Meaning focused, that means learners are more focused on the meaning in the exchange more than the language. Even though at certain points, if there is communication breakdown, there might be negotiation of meaning or negotiation of form according to the interactionist hypothesis. Another important aspect of the task is that the learners have to use holistic language use. Okay, so the learner is not trying to practice a certain grammatical form. All right, he's using all his knowledge of lexis, morphosyntax, and pronunciation, you know, intonation, to help him accomplish the goal of communicating. Right. So those are the three important aspects of what task is. Now, some researchers, such as Michael Long, for example, might add something else like task-based language teaching, tasks should be real-world tasks only. All right, but other research don't necessarily agree with him. I, for example, don't necessarily agree with him, especially in a context, in an EFL context, where real-world tasks of English is, a lot of it is actually inside the classroom. Okay, so another type of task, or TLBT, could be task-supported language teaching, which was suggested, a term suggested by Samuda and Bygate in 2008, who claimed that you know, pedagogical tasks are as useful as real-world tasks, right? And the example you just saw was a pedagogical task, and the goal was actually to have learners construct question forms. Another important separation that should be made when we discuss task is task as a work plan and task as a process. Task as a work plan means the design that the learners, the design that the teachers or researchers make. All right. So this so here's design. This is the goal. This is the structure. Now, task as a process is what the learner does with it. Okay, because every individual learner comes to a task differently, and they have different levels of proficiency. They have different goals in mind. All right, so the way they complete the task will be different from person to person. Okay, so no matter how well you design task as a work plan, you know, you're left to task as a process to the individual to interpret in detail what they need to do. Okay, now we've established what tasks are. Okay, now what is task repetition? Okay, not to confuse it with the behavioralist aspect of practicing or drilling. So according to Bygate 2018, and he said this other places as well, not just 2018. Task repetition is the act of repeating a given configuration of purposes and a set of content information. So what is repeated is the configuration of purposes, right? So your purpose is to take reservations, okay, or book hotel rooms, okay? And the content information may be repeated, but that depends on, for example, in such a task as hotel receptionist, depends on who the guest is, okay? What kind of room does he want? What maybe it's maybe the guest has a family of 2 children. Maybe he's on a business trip. So all the iterations are a little bit different, okay? But the purposes don't change. Tasks such as waiting customers at a restaurant, even though waiters are doing the same thing, but they are talking to different people and different types of conversation may come up, all right? Interviewing job applicants, you're interviewing different applicants, then there is a good chance that different type of language or content could also emerge, right? So you're not actually repeating the exact same language or formula all the time. And again, it is not the precise repetition of the language used. That is on the go of task repetition, right? So it's not drilling, and it's definitely not grammatical exercises. So in task-based learning, grammar is learned implicitly. Okay, there may of course be explicit explanation at the beginning, but a lot of time is spent on implicit learning of those rules. And learning from tasks is experience-based learning. Okay, you learn through experience, using and constructing language through yourself and through the interlocutor. And in 2010, I also split tasks to make it more fine into 2 types, which is called procedural and identical task repetition. So procedural repetition, as the name suggests, is repetition of the procedure, the goals and the purposes. Identical task repetition is exactly the same task that you do, right? It's exactly the same task. So procedural repetition may be, for example, the goal and the purpose is to develop questions, okay? So the first task might be interviewing someone for a job. The second task might be interviewing witnesses in a crime. The purpose is still to ask questions, but different questions. But what is being repeated is configuration of question forms. And the third task might be surveying tourists, okay, and ask them questions. So you can see that the procedure of interviewing is the same, all right, but the content has changed. Task repetition, identical task repetition, would be what you saw in the example that I showed you. Excuse me. All right, now let me move on to the theoretical underpinnings. I'm not sure how much time I have. All right, if someone could just give me a signal.
7 more minutes.
Excuse me?
7 more minutes.
7 more minutes. Okay, I have to
Okay.
read through this. Okay, so the first theoretical underpinning is limited capacity. Okay, we all know that humans have a limited capacity for attention, okay? And we can only attend to a few things, or maybe one thing at once. Okay, if there are 2 people talking, we have to choose who we should attend to. If you're driving and you're listening to music and maybe someone's sitting next to you, you choose what you have to attend to. Okay. Okay, I actually want to show this task to you. Okay, so just to prove a point here, I want you to follow these instructions here. Count how many times the players wearing white pass the basketball. Okay, so focus on the people wearing white t-shirt and count how many times they pass the basketball. When the video is over, I'd like you to type in the answer. Okay, just watch and count and type in the answer.
How many times the players wearing white pass the basketball? How many passes did you count?
Okay, if you could just quickly type in your answers. All right, good job, great. Okay, now let's watch the answer, okay? And there's another question after the answer that I'd like you to answer.
The correct answer is 15 passes.
Okay, so you counted 15, great job. Now there's another question that I'd like you to answer that is maybe more important.
But did you see the gorilla?
Okay, so can you answer in the chat? Did you see the gorilla? Yes or no? All right. Okay. So as you can see, there are a lot of yeses, but there are some of you who actually said no, right? Said no, you didn't see the gorilla. Okay. So just to make sure that I am not putting your leg and it's not April's Fool's Day, right? There's the gorilla in plain sight. Okay. So what does this mean? This means that you can only focus on you have a limited capacity of attention. All right, usually you focus on one thing at a time. If you're multitasking, that means because the other task is so fluent that it doesn't take away your attentional resources, and you can do many things at the same time. But for this task, since you're trying to count the number of passes, you're so much fixated on counting the passes that you can't attend to a gorilla, which is plainly in front of you. And this is normal. So what does task repetition do? Well, task repetition, it helps free up attentional resources, right? So when you repeat the task the second or third time, you don't have to worry about the procedure anymore. And you might not worry about, creating, thinking about, okay, what should I do? How would the interlocutor feel, or other aspects of the task you would feel less anxious and less worried about in the second and the third time. So when you're not worried about those things, it is hypothesized that learners will have more time to focus on the linguistic aspect of the task. And when they focus more on the linguistic aspect of the task, there's a better chance that they may construct or learn from the tasks.
2 more minutes,
This is a test
Doctor.
of selective.
Thank you. Okay. Let me talk about just 2 more theories that actually underpin task repetition. The second is skill acquisition. As you can see here, a tennis player serving the ball. In skill acquisition theory, knowledge is separated into 2 types: declarative and procedural. Declarative is knowledge of what, okay? Of what, like for example, in English, you have to change from run to ran when you use the past tense. So the knowledge of changing run to ran, or knowing that, is declarative knowledge. But actually using it is not declarative knowledge. Actually using it, you're using procedural knowledge of use. Just like this person serving a tennis ball. The knowledge that he uses for serving a tennis ball is procedural knowledge. Okay, he might be able to explain how to serve it, but that is not the knowledge that is used to serve a tennis ball. It's procedural knowledge. And the idea in skill acquisition theory is that declarative knowledge helps develop procedural knowledge, which is called proceduralization. So there's a misconception that declarative knowledge changes into procedural knowledge, but actually declarative knowledge is used to help develop procedural knowledge, right? But the task have to be transfer appropriate, and maybe you could ask me about that in our Q&A. Now, the final theory that underpins task repetition is the complex dynamic system theory. This is, I think, one of the most important underpinning theories for task repetition, because the complex dynamic adaptive system sees language as something that is constantly changing, constantly adapting, with no final state. So this is in stark contrast to Chomsky's view of language, where it's universal and there's a structure, and learners are developing into a structure that they may have. but actually the complex dynamic adaptive system language. Okay, so from a dynamic adaptive system point of view, language is not closed. Learners are not going towards a certain predetermined structure, but they are constantly constructing language. Okay, and new forms emerge from series of reiteration of the same task. Right. So I have a few more slides, but I think that's all the time I have. Okay, I'm sorry I had to rush through the final theories here, but if we have more time in the Q&A session, I hope I'll be able to address some of them.
Yes, thank you. Let's give a round of applause for Dr. Comrades. Actually, when you give applause, it's activate your nerve, right, Dr. Comrades? So thank you once again for you. And we still keep the question for you later at question and answer session. We will read it for you. All right, everyone, before we go to the next distinguished speaker, I just want to make sure that everyone can be in one screen. Mas Angga, probably you can help everyone in one screen because we still have the PowerPoint of Dr. Comrades. Doctor, would you please close the screen? Thank you. All right, just in a minute before we continue to the next one, I just want to make sure that everybody still here. I know that this pandemic may make us miss our best friend, our family, because we cannot visit each other, right? So I just want to invite all of you to give a big hug, very big hug for your best friend or your parents. I cannot see it. Some of you already, but some of you not yet. Can you give big hug, virtual big hug for your best friend or your family or your grandchild probably? All right, good. Thank you very much. So that's make you awake. If you still sleepy, you still can grab coffee. Okay, good. It's getting warmer, the discussion. And the next will be interesting topic as well. And allow me to introduce the next distinguished speaker. She is Sabrina Sunhe, PhD. And now she is a research scientist at the Center for Research in Child Development of National Institute of Education, Singapore. And she has been trained in China, the US, and the Netherlands as an applied linguist. And her major interests are child heritage language maintenance and e-book reading. Then the second, individual differences in early bilingualism. And also the third, her focus is harmonious bilingual experience. Her research is about how cognition and environment co-shape the developmental rate and route of early bilingualism, and how the bilingual experience influence children's social emotional skills and also children's executive function. Her work has appeared in so many journals, some of them applied psycholinguistic, bilingualism, language and cognition, and many more. She is now associate editor for the Asian Pacific Journal of Education, and she seeks to call for attention from parents, early educators, policymakers, and other stakeholders to the importance of the harmonious bilingualism on children's early mother tongue and English language learning. Actually, if you want to know more about her, you can just Googling, because you will find www.sunhe-sabrina.com. All of the detail will be there. Or you can visit ResearchGate and type her name. And amongst all of the publication that she has today, she will talk about how is the effect of well-designed e-book on children's visual attention and early language learning. So how is it like? Let's directly invite Dr. Sabrina Sunhe. 30 minutes for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's my great honor to be here. And thank you for the conference committee to invite me to give this talk. Okay, now please allow me to share my screen. Okay, may I ask whether you can see it?
Yes,
okay,
clearly.
Okay, thank you.
But still in format not view.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, here you go.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great honor to give this presentation to you. My name is Sun He. I'm from CRCD, Center for Research in Child Development, National Institute of Education, Nanyang Technological University. So today I would like to draw your attention to use ebooks and see its great potential to improve children's early language learning. I will provide some findings based on my recent eye tracking study. So here, first of all, I would like to demo some data from 1,440 children from Singapore. We follow a large group of children for 3 years, from K1 at the age of 4 to 5 until P1 at the age of 7 to 6, 7, or 8. So here is the whole sample. You can see that from K1, K2 to P1, development rate is very different case by case. This is so messy. Let me draw a smaller sample for you. So this is the kind of picture based on 200 cases, 200 children. You can see that even though the general tendency is, children's English receptive vocabulary in Singapore increase over time, but the exact pattern, exact root is very different case by case. Is it only true for receptive vocabulary? No. Let's see another domain, English word reading. Again, the figure at the left side is about the whole sample. Then I draw a smaller sample for you, about 200 children. You can see similar to English receptive vocabulary here for English word reading, you can also see huge individual differences for children's development from K1 to P1. Then our question is, how or what reason, what kind of factors will affect children to develop their language, emergent language capacity abilities differently? According to the literature and my previous studies, we can summarize two big groups of reasons. One is about external factors. External factors related something about children's learning environment. For example, like about their family, how much the family really uses language with their kids. How about their literacy environment? What the social status, socioeconomic status they have? We can also have some factors about school, like teachers' qualification, school curriculum, peer relationship. Another group of factors will influence early language learning is from children's cognitive aspect, something about their domain general skills, like analytical reasoning, executive function, theory of mind, or other factors like age of onset, gender, or children's temperament. Okay, today I would like to draw your attention to children's literacy environment at home, which is a robust predictor for children's early language and literacy development. Okay, traditionally we can use different measures or different ways to estimate home literacy environment. There are two popular ways to index home literacy environment, by looking at children's number of books at home or the frequency of share book reading at home. Previous study demonstrate that early book reading has a very consistent contribution to children's long-term development. So here I give some meta-analysis to demo the influence. According to this famous study in 1995, about 8% of variance in children's individual differences in the future language and reading comprehension can be integrated by their early book exposure. About 12% of the variance of children's oral language performance can be explained by their early language exposure, book reading exposure. From my own study, using the big sample I demoed to you at the beginning of my talk, I also can look at children's internal and external factors. You can see that for children's receptive vocabulary, reading days and book numbers, especially book numbers, is very consistent to predict children's development. And for another domain, English word reading, similarly, you can see the number of days parents read English books at home also significantly predict children's development in word reading skill. Okay, now you may ask, why early book reading is so beneficial? I think we can discuss this question from two perspectives. One is about the content of books. Usually in our daily conversation, we mainly we just use some very simple words to try to deliver our meaning. However, in children's book, they usually contain a lot of sophisticated words like comprehension or attribution, motivation. These kind of big words can appear in children's book. So to prepare for children's academic vocabulary building. Another perspective is from the interaction perspective. During the book reading, adults or peers usually will talk to the kid. And then this kind of interaction will really promote children's language and literacy development. Based on my own study, I found actually teachers or parents' question in a book reading will be very beneficial. And questions can be divided into different cognitive loads. And different cognitive loads, such as high cognitive loads, ask kids to make prediction, or low cognitive loading questions ask kids to describe the illustration. Both types can help children to acquire new novel words or understand the story better. Okay, because the early reading is so important, so in the past 5 years, I have applied 5 grants to explore this phenomenon, this learning genre. And then my goal is to dig out what is happening during children's reading. So I want to see whether teachers or parents' different strategies or reading modality using paper book or ebook will engage children differently. For example, to attract children's attention differently, or arouse children's motivation of reading differently. Eventually, I'm going to assess children's outcome and see whether the different intervention will result different learning outcomes. Today, I would like to share the findings of the second project, which I use ebooks reading, and then I follow children's attention in different reading conditions. Before I start this kind of intervention, a big question is, do we have the soil to build up such kind of intervention? Which means that if this intervention is successful, do we have the population or foundation to promote or scale up such kind of findings? The answer is yes, at least in Singapore, because multimedia is quite popular among children already. Based on a large survey study, you can see in Singapore, at the age of 1 to 7 years old, children already have used their different multimedia or digital formats daily. About 60% of parents think that this type of touchscreen devices will benefit their children's intellectual development. At the age of 3, they spend the longest time using smartphones, more than half an hour per day. At the age of 5, they spend the longest time using tablets, again, more than half an hour per day. Then there are some figures from our National Library Board. You can see that ebooks have been borrowed in a large number over the past few years. And just this type of tendency is quite obvious. And ebook is another thing is ebook is a favorite reading format for children here. Then the next question is, do we have the evidence to show that ebooks can be useful to promote children's early language and literacy development? Here, I draw some findings from the Netherlands and from the United States, because some evidence hasn't shown that ebooks is very promising for children's second language or bilingual learning, because children in these two groups usually have less language knowledge. They need extra information to comprehend story plot and learn new words and grammar. Okay, the next question is, how are we going to design ebooks if we think it's very useful? Because if you open an ebook, it has many, many features. How are we going to design a very useful educational purpose ebook? I think here, multimedia learning theory could be very useful, because this theory actually is based on 3 hypotheses. The first one is dual channel hypothesis, which means that if we engage a learner's different channels, different senses, probably they can use more materials, more resources to process the information and then learn more effectively. In the ebook, if we provide children both the sound effects and motion, animation, we can engage both ears and eyes, and then probably this kind of rich information will facilitate their comprehension and learning. The second hypothesis is about limit capacity. We know that each channel or each sensor will have limited capacity. So if we can well design some features in the book, actually these features will help the participant or the learner to select useful information from the reading. Then it can reduce the cognitive loading of this different channel. Lastly, it's about active processing. Some children usually are totally engaged in this new design, so they may have more curiosity or better motivation to learn it. So based on this multimedia theory, we start to design my study. And before I show you my design, I want to emphasize certain features have been found to be very useful in literature. Features which can provide rich nonverbal information to optimize temporal congruity of narration pictures have been found to facilitate children's selective selection of the content or reading materials. Specifically, motion can direct children's attention to the detail for better comprehension and memory. Sound can concretize things and meaning, allowing children to process verbal and nonverbal information at the same time. Lastly, background music can highlight a character's mood and tone the story, then lending children to understand the story better. In my study, I have 3 leading questions. The first question is, would children in the animated ebook condition learn more words and retell the story better? Our hypothesis is the animated ebook condition can outperform the static condition in terms of language outcome, because the features can help them to understand the story better and also attract their attention to the more target area. The second question is about children's attention. We want to know whether the animated feature will help children to focus on the reading for a longer period. Our hypothesis is the animated ebook groups will outperform the static groups in terms of total fixation time, as animated features like sound and motion are expected to help attract and retain children's visual attention. Third, we want to know how children's attention change over repetitive readings. For if children enjoy a book, this book can be read for many, many times. Actually, according to previous studies, it demonstrates that until the third or fourth reading, children can really benefit from reading a novel book. So we want to know how does children's attention will change over time. For this question, we have two hypotheses. One is about with each replay of the story, children become more familiar with the content and plot, resulting in a gradual decrease in their visual attention. The second hypothesis is there will be difference between children with a high proficiency and low proficiency. For low proficiency children, we anticipate that because their language proficiency, they may maintain or even increase their visual attention after replays, especially when the books guide their visual attention to relevant detail. In my design, we have 4 reading conditions. The first condition is about with sound and with motion. The second condition is we have sound but no motion. The third condition is we have sound effects and we have neither sound effects nor motion, really copy the paper book reading condition. And in the last group, we have a group of children just play math games while other children really read the books. We select 3 prize-winning books in our study: Cycling with Grandpa, Little Kangaroo, and Imitators. We use eye tracker to follow children's attention. We use Toby Pro. This is a kind of Toby eye tracker. The sampling rate was 120 Hertz. We track our children's attention using this device. Children were asked to sit at a distance of 60 to 70 centimeters from the eye tracker. The machine was calibrated for each child before they start this experiment to make sure that the eye tracker can accurately follow their attention. Lastly, we focus on longer fixations, which means that the fixation is longer than 150 milliseconds, because from previous study, it has been demonstrated that learner needs such amount of time to process very complex visual information. So here, I would like to show a demo to illustrate how we have done this experiment.
Is there any
So this is the animated condition. And this is how we collect our data with eye tracker. Here is the eye tracker. So during the experiment, children barely notice that we follow their attention. So this is the children's eye gaze. So we just do the calibration to make sure that we correctly follow their attention. So you can see the big dots means that where children is looking at. And then the larger the dot means that the longer attention they pay to this area. Okay, so here comes the outcome of our experiment. We used screening tests language, such as vocabulary, grammar, narrative skills, verbal fluency to assess children's initial language proficiency. We also control their cognitive differences, like nonverbal intelligence or short-term memory. Before and after the experiment, we focus on children's vocabulary learning and see whether they can produce and comprehend the novel words, and whether they can transfer such information, semantic information, to new context. Lastly, we ask them to retell the story and to see how much they can comprehend the story. For the first question, whether enhanced ebooks or animated ebooks can really help children to learn better. Here is the outcome. You can see for children's production vocabulary, the animated groups can outperform the other three conditions without motion, and in terms of total production score. Children can also retell story better in this animated condition. The second question, we want to know whether animated ebooks can track children's longer attention. Here, we demo three conditions. You can see from the x-axis, there are three groups. So children with both sound effects and motion, children with only sound effects, or children have neither sound or motion. So the results turn out that animated version can really attract children's longer attention, regardless which book we're looking at. Lastly, we want to know how do children really change their attention over repetitive readings. Here we use the Little Kangaroo book as an example. You can see here is first, second, third, and fourth readings, and in both groups, enhanced group and static group. For the first reading, you can see the mean score. The enhanced group is outperformed the static group. So that second, third, and fourth reading. Then the next question is, how about children's initial language proficiency? Will that influence children's attention while reading ebooks? Yes. If we divide children into two conditions, static version and enhanced version or animated version, you can see that children, no matter their low or high proficiency, children in this enhanced condition always outperform their peers in another static condition in terms of total fixation time. And over the repetitive readings, you can see that here, children in general decrease their visual attention. However, low proficiency children in the animated condition will, slightly decrease their visual attention, but bounce back, and eventually, perform similarly in terms of total fixation time, like their peers with a higher proficiency rate, higher proficiency. Okay, conclusion. I think our study is keeping in line with previous studies. We show that the importance of motion in promoting children's new word learning. And motion may not only facilitate better acquisition of verbs, but also adjectives in terms of language production. Motion may help promote the memory of complicated story plots in particular. And in comparison, the contribution of sound per se in ebook, this kind of contribution is very limited. Limitations of the study. We have quite a small sample size, and we didn't really follow children after 3 months or even longer period, so we don't know whether this animation group can maintain their benefits. However, even with this kind of limitation, our study implicates that animated ebooks can be very useful for children's second language learning and bilingual language learning. In Singapore, actually, the societal dominant language is English. So many children have very, very poor, very, very basic Mandarin skills, even though Mandarin is their mother tongue language. I think similar to many settings like Indonesia and in Malaysia and a lot of other countries where English is a foreign language or a second language. I think this type of finding could be very useful to enhance children's early English acquisition. And I think our finding also contribute to this multimedia series a little bit, because we found that prior knowledge, children's initial language proficiency, not only influence the working memory processing, but also influence the selection part, this attentional part. Upcoming in my new study, which I'm doing at the moment, I look into ebook app, which contains a lot of ebooks. I want to know, how does children really use ebook app at home with their parents? I want to know whether ebook can really help them to read more often at home, and whether if we give parents some scaffolding, some literacy tips, they can help their kids to read better. Lastly, whether ebook app and parental scaffolding tips can help children to learn better. Here, I demo a kind of some literacy tips we provided for our local parents and early educators.
Does it has voice, Dr. Sunhee?
Oh, yes. Oh, it has no voice?
No.
Oh, sorry. Okay, let me see how I can.
And I'm sorry to let you know that your time is 4 minutes left.
Yeah, okay, maybe I just skip this part. So here I just demo some tips we prepare for local parents to enhance early language education at home. And also we prepare some tips package for local educators to use these tips in the classroom. So from this study, we want to write a book to compile all the tips we found, then to provide the local parents and early educators some tips how to promote reading in this digital age. And then if you want to know more studies findings from my group, please scan this QR code so you can follow our publications and whatever resources we have. I want to thank a lot of collaborators or co-PIs of this project, Professor Adriana Bas and my collaborator Adam, and some professors from the Netherlands and Germany, and also my RAs for data collection. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sunhee. Let's give big applause for Dr. Sunhee. Virtual big applause for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's several questions for you, Dr. Sunhee, but later we're going to read it. Because next we're going to have another interesting topic. After we hear creative learning tools with postcard, then task repetition for L2 pedagogy, and just now we learn how's the early language learning using ebook. Now we're going to observe what is the X factor in classroom, because this topic will going to be presented by Dr. Aslam Han bin Samas Khan. And just to let you know, I'm going to read his CV. He is now Executive Vice Chairman of American Education Group, and also the Council Member of National Association of Private Educational Institutions in Malaysia. And also he is now Vice President of Malaysian Association for Education for Malaysia, UK, and China. And he obtained his academic and professional qualifications in Malaysia and the United Kingdom. And he has so many awards. So Pak Aslam, I'm sorry, I cannot read all of them. But some of them, and I always remember because he was with us in the last ELLiC as well. He was National Excellent Teacher of Malaysia, And also excellent service, he got excellent service awards from Ministry of Education. He is master trainer and consultant in English studies. So he does many consultation works for governmental and corporate organizations. He was the vice chair and coordinator of Malaysian Technical Cooperation Program for more than 15 years. He was also project manager of Malaysia-Australia Education Project for Afghanistan. He has been an invited featured speaker at various national and international ELLiC and education conferences. I believe some of the audience already knew you, Mr. Aslam. And the most interesting part, he is a polyglot, as he speaks 12 languages and dialect. So let's invite Bapak Aslam Khan, because he's like our brother from Malaysia. Please, Pak Aslam, 20 to 30 minutes for you.
Okay, thank you very much, Bu Jessica. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. Still morning, yeah? Yeah, still morning
Yes.
from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. It is really a great pleasure and great, a great honor to be invited again by University Muhammadiyah Semarang. I was there for the first one, yeah? And then I was there with the other university too. So Semarang is just like a second home because I've been there for 4 or 5 times. Anyway, thank you again to Bapak Rektor, Bapak Rektor, Bapak Vice Rector, the Dean, and Bu Jessica, Bu Aima, Pak Dodi, Pak Harry, all these people that come to my thoughts when I think about University Muhammadiyah. So, and those who I've not mentioned also, Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. So I have about 20 to 30 minutes. I might as well straight away go into my presentation. Yeah, Bu, yeah?
Okay.
Yes, you can call me Pak Aslam. Yeah, I've known Pak Aslam in Indonesia for the past 12 years. Okay. All right. Let me share my PowerPoint. Now, where do I go? I mean, I need to go into my... desktop. So where should I go? I need to open my desktop, right?
Yes, and then share screen.
Okay. I need to open my desktop, yeah?
Or share screen, then you can pick the desktop.
But it doesn't come here, the desktop. I can't see my desktop. Do I go to whiteboard? No. No?
No, this is whiteboard.
Okay. So I have to go to my... Wait, just hold on, yeah? How do I go about it? Okay.
Yeah, click the presentation if you want to present.
Okay.
Underneath your picture, sorry.
Okay, let me make this thing small first. Okay, wait, let me see. Okay.
Oh, excuse me, you can open your presentation.
Okay.
After that, share screen. Then you can pick the PowerPoint.
All right, okay, just hold on. Sometimes this technical thing...
All right.
Okay, I got it. Got it?
Yay!
Okay,
Congratulations.
yeah. All right,
Yes.
it's clear, yeah? It's clear, yeah?
Yes, clear here. Thank you.
We are looking at the English language education, the new normal. I'm taking you all into a journey. I'm doing basically lots of reflection here, and based on the reflection, maybe inshallah, God willing, we can get some some insights about how to go dealing with the new normal from the pedagogical perspective. Okay. Yeah. So this is what I'm going to share with you. All right, the 5 bullet points here. Some of these things that I will share with you. And we see revisiting some of the education theories, concepts, understanding the new normal, the challenges, and then the shift, and suggested practical and contextualized solutions in learning. Okay, now this is the aspect of education that will never change. Yeah, never change. Now we need to understand that teaching and learning is basically not something that it is for us to decide. It is more of the learners. All right, for the learners, perspective, that we need to understand that it is not really teaching facts, but teaching learners to live extraordinary lives. All right. And then we know that education is about learning to use your mind. It's not about filling it up with information. Now, these are some of the underlying or underpinning aspects of education that we really need to internalize. And another part of it is that, are we teaching or are we educating? Now we have to understand, are we mere teaching or are we an educator? Okay, so I think many of you will agree with me that we should be educators, right? Yeah,
True.
we should be
Yes.
educators. Yeah, because when we are educators, then we go the extra mile to make a change and and to make a difference in our learners. All right, so I think the word educate seems to me to be more appropriate than to teach. Yeah, and then we know that the most important aspect, for teaching and learning, one of the most important aspects is we have to understand that it's also for teachers to grow, to work and grow. So that's why this quote here is very apt. Schools can't become the best places for students to learn and grow unless we make them the best places for teachers to grow and work. I think everyone would agree to this quote, yeah? And let's revisit, and internalize the theories and concepts, because all these theories and concepts are related to the new normal and the pedagogical perspective. Now we look at all this. All right, we know about Industry 4.0. We know about the Education 4.0. We know about the 6 C's of education for 21st century. However, here I just add to Brian S. Miller's 6 C's of education. I just add one more, so it's 6 C's plus 1, because what is crucial when we understand theories, all these theories, we must understand that whatever pedagogical journey that we are taking, it has to be very contextualized. All right, it has to be very contextualized, because there's always a line there. One hat doesn't fit all. Okay, one hat doesn't fit all, because we can be teaching the same topic, the same theme, okay, the same subject matter in any parts of the world, but we may approach it from the pedagogical perspective, we may approach it according to the context which we are in. All right. So therefore, I greatly advocate contextualization as one of the crucial or very pertinent, element in pedagogy. And then we also understand that, all these theories and concepts were before the new normal. So, the new normal is not something very new, I guess, based on our exposure to IR 4.0, to, 21st century education and education 4.0. I think what we are putting into practice pedagogically now is quite related to all these theories and concepts. So I have highlighted the four aspects, all right? The four aspects, which is quite significant, all right? These aspects are quite significant when we start, embarking on the new normal from the pedagogical perspective. Diverse time and place, personalized learning, exam will change completely, mentoring will become more important. All right, so let's move on. Now we know that the conventions, okay, we know the conventions, before the new normal. I think everybody know that this is the convention, from these images you can see, learning and teaching are done this way. All right. However, when when the new normal came into practice, we start looking, well, the new normal, there are challenges, Is it, we then start looking at the realism versus the idealism. And then we have to make our own stance and perspective, because we are the practitioners. We step into the classroom. We have all the theories, we have all the concepts, we have the policies, we have the curriculum, we have the subject matter there. But at the end of the day, we have to tell ourselves that what are our stance and our perspective from a pedagogical perspective. Because we step into the class, whether we are at the preschool, primary, secondary, or tertiary level. Now, how do we handle this new normal? So this is what, the new normal has many definitions. So this is kind of a definition that, may provide us with some understanding what the new normal is in general. All right. So a previously unfamiliar and atypical situation that has become standard, usual, or expected. So it's unfamiliar, but now it has become standard, usual, or expected. All right. So when we understand the new normal, we need to have the shift. Okay, the shift. This is crucial because we have to move from the conventional to the new normal. So when we're talking about a shift, this is what we see. And this was something that we did this morning. This is the shift. Previously, in conferences, we don't have this. It is face-to-face. But now we are moving here to this. You see? So this is the new normal. All right? And then when we are looking at a new normal, we have challenges. Okay, we have challenges. All right? And these are the key challenges. The key challenges. I think all of us understand in online learning and teaching, we have challenges related to adaptability struggle, technical issues, time management, socio-economic factor, and affordability. Then we talk about computer literacy, digital competence. What about technical skills? Then what about the human factors? All right, self-motivation. Then we look at assessment, evaluation, testing, assessment. It is something that we have to look at. And then what about the workload for practitioners? How competent are they? All right. And then do we need to come up with training packages? What about confidence? Okay, of the learners. So all these key challenges are there. All right. I think these 9 key challenges are genuine challenges. So therefore, in order for us to successfully, okay, put into practice all our pedagogical, aspect of learning and teaching, we need to address these key challenges. All right? Okay? Okay, let's look at, in every challenge that we face, we need to seek solutions. So some solutions are ongoing, and we keep on doing researches. We try to find the X factor, and the X factor that we find in our solutions, all right, the X factor that we find in our solutions, our pedagogical solutions, are contextualized according to the needs of our learners, because our learners are the focal point. Our learners are the focus. So therefore, we are looking at a shift, right? And the shift in the education landscape needs to be created. All right? Needs to be created. All right? So let's look at some of the suggested creation of this kind of shift. Okay? So we have here, the 7 most powerful ideas in learning today. Take a few seconds and internalize these 7 most powerful idea shifts in learning today. You see? Are we looking at the 7 most powerful idea shifts? Yes. From physical to digital, standards to habits. So that's why contextualization is so crucial. All right? Are we talking about standards? What standards are we looking at? And then we talk about compliance. Is it compliance? I will share later. Why is it not compliance? All right? And then what about, is it a learning and teaching is basically the responsibility of the schools or institutions? We need the communities to come over. Is it so, is privacy or transparency? So you see, ladies and gentlemen, these 7, okay, these 7 idea shift are so crucial in learning and teaching today. Okay? And this from the Ministry of Education Malaysia. Okay? You see, due to the pandemic, we are doing our teaching learning very home-based. All right? And new ways of teaching and learning, or I would say new ways of learning and teaching. So you see, this is the suggestion or the steps taken by the Ministry of Education Malaysia. The teaching and learning, the digital application, the support, the students as active learners, teachers' roles, enhanced skills. So you see, we are still doing what we can. The Ministry of Education, the institution, the researchers, the practitioners, we are looking for solutions. And we are always saying we want to look for the X factor, because whether we like it or not, the pandemic is here. Whether we like it or not, education cannot stop. Every child, every learner has his or her right to education. So for us as practitioners, we have to keep on moving forward with new solutions. So that's why I use the word X factor. Why is it X factor? Because there is no one solution. The X factor is related to the context where you are in. All right? The context where you are in, where your learners are in. Okay? So we will see some of the factors that we need to consider. All right? Or maybe we need to move away from what we are practicing today, from pedagogy to heutagogy. Okay, which is related very much to self-determined learning, because we know that most of our learners are not doing face-to-face learning and teaching. So self-determined learning among our learners is so crucial. All right, so look at these principles. All right, are we going to capture some of these principles and use the elements, and then try to incorporate in our classroom practice? So this is something that for us all to reflect and put into practice, because at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, we know our learners best. You can be in Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, all right? Or you can be in Indonesia, for that matter. If you are in Indonesia, you are in Semarang. Some people are in Bali or Malang, Surabaya, Jogja, Medan, Palembang. So we may have to look at the context and then come up with the X factor, okay, that you feel will enhance learning and teaching. Then you are the educator. You are the educator for your learners. Okay? Now, this is just a suggestion, all right, that based on my readings, so I thought it is very crucial for us to do the reimagining education in the new normal in ensuring continuity in learning and teaching. Because the key word here is continuity. We have to ensure education doesn't stop. And in the new normal, we need to reimagine because we are in the new normal. So I'm looking at these 4 perspectives, yeah? The holistic pedagogical approach, their socio-economic status and their equal rights, and then the technology part, and also the testing, evaluation, assessment, and examination. So I'm looking at these 4 aspects of, reimagining the education setting in the new normal. Because personally, I feel that the learners should be given education continuously. All right. So these are my understanding how we can reimagine education in the new normal. And if you look here on the left, every learner, irrespective of socio-economic status, has equal rights to learning. Policymakers, institutions, practitioners, educators, communities, and related agencies, including organizations with social responsibilities in education. So, it's the responsibility of the whole nation, the whole citizen of the nation, or maybe the global citizen, to ensure that learning continues and not even one learner is disadvantaged.
Excuse me, your time is 3 minutes.
Or 3 minutes.
Sorry.
That was fast. Okay. Okay, in assessment, we move. Okay, we might need to do it online, digital, yeah? All right. So standardized, the word standardized here is not standardized according to what we are looking at, certain standards, but we are looking at some global views, yeah? And then we must remember that technology as a tool, yeah? Yeah, it is a servant to us, not a master, yeah? So remember that technology is a servant, okay? It is a means, is not the end. And then, okay, let me move to this, yeah, since I have 3 minutes. Okay, the shift in the pedagogical implication, we contextualize and personalize our pedagogical shift. All right, I came up with this acronym or mnemonic. That's ASLAM, that's my name. So if you are doing online teaching methodology, you can use ASLAM. ASLAM is basically a replacement for face-to-face. So face-to-face is being replaced by this kind of suggested methodology. Yeah? So we activate, we share, we learn, we apply, and we move. Because in the face-to-face, we are looking at something else. Okay, but in the online teaching and learning, we are looking at the same dynamics, but it is online. So how we can come up with a suggested online teaching methodology. But to be honest, we need to reduce our talking time, even though it's online, and prioritize maximum learning through students' maximum talking time. So this is another practical approach where you can come up with this. I'm quickly sharing only the headings. You come up with a theme topic, and then your procedures, you don't discount or compromise the underlying principles and beliefs. Yeah. And as a conclusion, okay, Bu Yeska, give me 2 or 3 minutes for the conclusion. Yeah.
Sure.
So, it's not just about online learning, a reflection on the new normal in education. So, according to Francis Jim Toscano, he said it's not just about online. We have to look at many factors. You know, there are 9 factors here. Maslow before Bloom should be the new battle cry in education. We always talk about Bloom, cognitive, but now we have to look at Maslow. Okay, so everybody knows what Maslow's theory of needs. Yeah, and then look at equitable, multiple wills, better funding. Okay, pedagogy must be sound. We have to review the purpose of assessment, community having stronger ties, okay, with the school or the institution, and flexibility. You know, all these things we need to reimagine also, yeah. And we understand that Maslow's hierarchy of needs need to be looked at, because we have to understand the socio-economic status of our learners. Because if a family has 4 school-going children, can they afford to have all these tools, all these tools for online? So we need to look at this. We need to revisit, then we need to reimagine and find the right solution. So food for thoughts. This new normal provided us with challenges, but it also put us into a situation where we get opportunities, such as research innovations, technological innovations, and also come up with socio-economic interventions. All right. So these are some of the opportunities. So solution is basically to understand new kinds of problems require new methods, solutions, which require new ways of thinking. Why? For quality and effective learning and teaching. And therefore, the key word in the new normal to me is contextualization. Just contextualize your learning and teaching according to the needs of your learners based on the resources available. All right? Because one hat doesn't fit all. And these are the 10 pertinent questions. You can take a quick snap of of these pertinent questions for reflection, and maybe you can come up with an article based on these 10 pertinent questions. Yeah, so you can come up with an article and then share your findings. So my hope is that our new normal today exposes what was wrong with our old normal yesterday and sets us up for a better normal tomorrow. So with that, thank you very much. That is my
Thank you.
And my contact.
Thank you, Pak Aslam, for the nice presentations. And we already discussed everything. Thank you, Pak Aslam, big hug from Semarang. And now we come up to the next part. We already discussed so many tools for creative learning, and we learned the best practices from all the previous speakers. Now we have to consider the assessment. That's why we're going to invite Professor Joko Nurkamto. And a little information for you. He is a professor of TESOL, and he works for Department of English Language Education, 11 Maret University, Indonesia. And he pursued his doctoral degree in Jakarta State University, Jakarta, Indonesia. His areas of academic specialization is related to language curriculum development, teacher professional development. And he has so many awards and important positions, so I cannot read all of those. Pak Joko, mohon maaf. But several important on strategic position in his uni, he in charge. And outside university, at least 8 positions that he in charge for, from provincial to international level, and 2 of which are he is member of Supervisor Board, Indonesian Accreditation Board of Higher Education in Indonesia, and he is also president of TEFLIN, the Association for Teaching of English as a Foreign Language in Indonesia, since 2014 until today. And of course, he becomes representative of Indonesia in Asia TEFL. So without further ado, we're going to invite Professor Joko Nurkamto. He will talk about dialogic feedback in assessment for learning. So please, Prof. Joko, you have 20 to 30 minutes for your presentation. Silakan, Bapak.
Okay, thank you, Bu Yesi. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Before I present my topics, I would like to convey my thanks to the committee, especially Bu Yesi, yeah, who chaired this. Could I share my own screen, not the committee?
Okay.
Just stop sharing. I will. Okay. Let me share my own, so I can control my presentation. Okay. Can you see my slide?
Yes.
All right.
Prof.
Okay. Okay. Indeed, I'm happy to be here with you virtually to share my knowledge, my experience about this topic, dialogic feedback and assessment for learning. Yeah. Okay. Pak Aslam is my close friend from Malaysia. Hello, Pak Aslam. I hope you are you keep healthy. Yeah, Pak Aslam. We often meet in some occasion. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Pak Joko.
All right. All right, Bapak Ibu and distinguished speakers, participants, and the listeners. Yeah. As you can see in my screens, my topic is dialogic feedback in assessment for learning. This is my presentation outline, assessment for learning, feedback, dialogic feedback. And then I would like to tell you about the enactment of dialogic feedback in my context. And then I will tell you the example of students' response to the enactment of dialogic feedback in my context. So right, first of all, so I would like to talk about assessment. Yeah, there are at least 3 kinds of assessments. There is assessment of learning, assessment for learning, and assessment as learning. Yeah, probably there is another assessment. Yeah. What is assessment of learning? Assessment of learning is assessment undertaken or carried out by teachers in the end of learning period to measure to what extent students achieve instructional aims and objective. And then the result of this assessment usually provide information about student achievement. Yeah, it is what usually people call a post-test. Yeah, in the end of ujian akhir semester or UAS. Yeah, in our terms. Okay, this assessment of learning, and this term is usually what it calls the same as summative assessment in a meta-analysis articles. Yeah, most of writer regard that assessment of learning is the same as summative assessment. That is, any assessment activity which result in a mark or grade, which is subsequently used as a judgment or student's performance. So the key word here is that is mark, grade, judgment, judgment on students' performance. So it is similar to students' achievement. It is assessment of learning and summative assessment. What about assessment as learning? Assessment as learning developed and support students' metacognitive skills. Yeah. This form of assessment is crucial in helping students become lifelong learners. Yeah. As students engage in peer and self-assessment, they learn to make sense of information related to prior knowledge and use it for new learning. So in assessment as learning, the students learn by engaging in the process of assessment. Yeah, starting from, for example, constructing, construct, identifying indicator, until making rubric and so on. So the students learn from the process of assessment. And the last type of assessment is assessment for learning. Assessment for learning is ongoing assessment or assessment which is carried out by the teachers in the process of teaching and learning activity, whose aims is to monitor students on day-to-day basis, modify their teaching based on what the students need to be successful, and provide students with the timely, specific feedback that they need to make adjustment to their learning. Yeah. In other, what do you call another reference? Yeah. The functions of assessment for learning is like the functions of formative assessment. There are three functions. Number one is to monitor students' learning progress, and then to provide feedback to the students and to correct what you call the mistake or the errors. Yeah. Almost as much as this. Okay. And assessment for learning is the same as formative assessment. Yeah. It refers to all those activities undertaken by teachers and sometimes by their students in assessing themselves, which provide feedback to shape and develop the teaching and learning activities in which both teachers and students are engaged. So, Bapak dan Ibu, in this context, it is assessment for learning who promote the quality of teaching and learning activity. Okay, this is the diagram showing us what we call the micro system of teaching and learning. There are 4 stages here: planning, implementation, assessment, and reflection. And you can see here that assessment for learning takes place during the implementation stage, where the students and the teacher interact in the learning process, while assessment of learning takes place after implementation stage. This is in the assessment stage. So assessment of learning here measure to what extent the students achieve instructional aims and objectives. And then in the bottom, we have a teaching learning program evaluation. So there is a difference between assessment and evaluation. So right. Now, what is the aim of assessment for learning, Bapak Ibu sekalian? The main aim of assessment for learning is to enhance students' learning. Yeah, the learner not only get knowledge and experience in cognitive level, but also develop their metacognitive awareness, metacognitive knowledge, metacognitive capabilities. And that is learning how to learn, which lead them to be autonomous learners, where learners are responsible for their own learning. I think autonomy will be the final target of teaching and learning activity. I myself, for example, will be happy if my students become autonomous learners, where they are responsible for their own learning without being forced by the lecturer or the teacher. Right. There are some strategies of assessment for learning in classroom practice. For example, teachers should share learning aims and success criteria with students. Is important because by knowing learning aims and objective, they can focus on the learning. They know the boundary of learning, and so on. And then teachers can elicit evidence about students' learning processes during everyday practice. And number 3, teachers can improve teaching and learning by using feedback. And it is our topic today. And then teacher can let students conduct peer and self-assessment as a part of classroom practice. And item number 4 is closely connected to assessment as learning. Now let's talk about feedback. What is feedback? If we look at some references, we will have a number of definitions of feedback. I quote from Denisi and Smith, 2014. Feedback refers to information a person receives about his or her performance or behavior. In our context, a person here is a student. So feedback refers to information students receive about his or her performance or behavior. This may include some evaluation, or it may simply indicate the level of performance or the nature of the behavior. Feedback may or may not include information on how to improve performance, but it will be most effective when such information is included. This is the meaning of feedback according to Denisi and Smith, 2014. Another difference of feedback comes from this Karasev, Nussbaum, Gonzalez, and Kadulski, 2019. Feedback is the name given to explicit action taken by an external agent, in this case the teacher, to provide information regarding some aspect of one's task performance. One's here refers to the students. So right, this feedback. Okay, there are some or even a number of types of feedback depending on the qualifications of the feedback. For example, in this presentation, we have at least 3 types of feedback. Number 1 is knowledge of result, showing the students whether or not their answer was correct. Knowledge of correct response, showing the students which is the correct answer. And elaborated feedback, providing students with information through strategic hints, explanation, and example. Another classifications of feedback, for example, there are 2 kinds of feedback. The first is cognitive feedback. Number 2 is affective feedback. Another classification is from other writer, grouping feedback into, for example, descriptive feedback and evaluative feedback. In short, there are a number of feedback according to from where we view the feedback. Okay. Right, Bapak dan Ibu, what is the importance of feedback in our teaching and learning activities? Feedback is likely to be helpful in 5 contexts. Number 1, when feedback is directed at behavior rather than at the persons. Number 2, when it is provided in timely fashion. Number 3, when it allows the recipient, in this case students, to see improvement. So feedback should lead to learning improvement. Number 4, when it concludes information on how to improve performance, and number 5, when the students is encouraged to set goals for improvement. Yeah. And I think there will be some more significances of feedback. Okay. So right, it is the weaknesses of one directional feedback. Yeah. Feedback is very crucial, but when it is provided in a one-way model, yeah, I think it's not so significant. Yeah. So I read here. Traditionally, feedback has been regarded as a unit of information that teachers provide to students in a one-directional model. This conceptualization of feedback has been criticized for creating learner dependency on externally provided feedback. Yeah, once again, feedback has been criticized for creating learner dependency. Yeah, on externally provided feedback. In this case, from teacher, yeah, as the external agent. Yeah, rather than supporting students to develop self-regulatory skills. Yeah, that's why. Okay, in reality, Pak Nisbu, different students may respond to the same feedback in different ways. The outcome of feedback are unpredictable and depend on the interaction between teachers and students. Even recent literature has therefore identified the need for feedback to be dialogic in nature, with both students and teachers sending, receiving, and benefiting from feedback. So in short, there is what they call a kind of a suggestion that feedback should be dialogue in nature to avoid what they call learner dependency on externally provided feedback. Okay, Bapak dan Ibu, although teachers are recognized as a legitimate authority, and indeed I agree, yeah, a legitimate authority and source to provide feedback, yeah, students may also be viewed as active co-constructor of knowledge and managers of their learning, and are required to take a proactive role and responsibility in the feedback process. Keyword is here is that student as co-constructor. Even in the extreme view, for example, students should construct their own knowledge, because they have to be responsible for their own learning. But in this case, there is the term co-constructor, meaning that there should be a share of authority between teacher and students. Okay, so Bapak dan Ibu, there is a kind of shift, yeah, between what do you call one way to the ways of feedback here, which is I call dialogic feedback. So dialogic feedback is an interactional process in which students engage with multiple sources of feedback, such as peers, teachers, and/or technologies. Yeah. This practice is an interpretative process with which engages students in providing feedback. So providing feedback is not only the authority of the teacher, but also the students. That's why in the previous slide, student as the co-constructor of knowledge here. Okay, dialogic feedback as a social activity. Dialogic feedback is part of a social constructivist approach to assessment, which involve the reciprocity of ideas. Okay, the keyword is reciprocity of ideas, discourses, and relationships between teacher and student or student to students. Reciprocal relationship. The social constructivist approach of dialogic feedback draws reference from the Vygotsky metaphor for teacher support of a learner through questioning, conversation, comment, and nonverbal modeling, or whatever means necessary to encourage learners to speak, interpret, and expand their comment. So dialogic feedback is perceived as a form of scaffolding to assist learners to achieve well beyond their current zones of proximal development. To tell you that Vygotskian theory is called socio-cognitive or socio-cultural, yeah, which involve what you call ZPD, yeah, zones of proximal development, and then scaffolding, and then mediated learning, and so on. Yeah. So according to Vygotsky and Tam, yeah, dialogic feedback is regarded as a form of scaffolding, yeah, to assist learners, to help learners to achieve the goal, yeah, to achieve what it calls the objective, yeah, beyond their current zone of proximal development. So right, what is the role of dialogic feedback? Yeah, there are at least 4 roles of dialogic feedback. Number 1 is promoting better thinking and raising standards. Why promoting the better thinking? Because the teacher provide the students with the opportunity to think and rethink what has been done or conducted by the students. So it will promote even critical thinking. Yeah. And number 2, it has the potential to enable students' voices to be assessed, and legitimized. Number 3, it is also a useful tool for reconciling the different perception of teachers and students through the feedback process. And then dialogic feedback also allows students to ask questions, illuminate their shared understanding, seek clarification, and comment on each other's ideas. Then number 4 is very important. Yeah, there is space for students to ask questions, to illuminate their shared understanding, and then seek clarification and comment on each other's ideas. So there will be a discussion among the students here. And then dialogue feedback also enables students to take greater ownership of their feedback during the discussion and develop collegial learning communities. Yeah. To take greater ownership means that there is space for the students, not only for the teacher. So right, Bapak sekalian, the next is the elements of dialogic feedback. There are at least 3 essential elements of dialogic feedback to stimulate active students' engagement. Number 1, feedback focuses on the difference between students' current achievement and goals. So there's a gap between what students can do and what students should do, should be able to do. Yeah. Number 2, feedback takes place in interaction between teachers and students. These interactions serve to clarify evaluation of student performance expectation, and interpretation of feedback, with both teachers and students contributing to the dialogue. And the last is feedback is tailored to the student's need. Teachers continuously modify their feedback based on students' responses in the dialogue. So right, Bapak sekalian, it is my experience in my campus during the pandemic. In this semester, I teach the subject qualitative research methodology in ELLiC on master program for English language education. And after presenting the lecture material for about 19 minutes or 100 minutes, I usually ask the students to complete an assignment applying the theory or concept I have presented. Yeah. For example, yeah, I ask the students to download an article containing research result about a topic that is their research interest, because in the end of the study they have to write the thesis, and this lecture is a part of their journey to write their thesis. So I ask the students to, from the very beginning, identify their research interests and then identify the relevant article in the journal. And the article they have to download should be relevant to their research interests. And then I ask the students to identify, for example, the research gap in the article, research purpose, and research question. Yeah. So each meeting has different tasks they have to accomplish. And then in the next meeting, the students present the result of their work. This is where the dialogic feedback takes place. For example, when the students saw the research in the article and then ask them, yeah, they show us, yeah, their task by blocking some part of the article or underline some sentences in the article representing gap, for example. And then I ask them some questions. For example, are you sure that it is a research gap? What makes you sure? And then please point out the keyword contained in the gap statement you have identified, and so on. So by these questions, they think hard, yeah, to ensure that their answer is correct. Yeah. Okay. And then in the end of the dialogue, then I provide them with reinforcement. And this process continues until the end of the lecture. And usually in one meeting, yeah, I ask 5 students to take part in the dialogic feedback, yeah, because they have to present and then they have to be responsible for whatever they do, yeah, during the accomplishment or the enactment of the task. And
Excuse me, Prof.
Yes, one more
You
slide.
have 3 minutes left. Sorry.
Okay, one more slide. But yes,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Okay, and this is the example of students respond. Yeah. In the end of the meeting, I usually ask them to reflect on whatever they do in the meeting, and this is the example of the response. Personally, I agree with you. I omit Pak Joko that two-way feedback is needed in lecture to cross-check our understanding and to anticipate technical problem during online learning. I have so many responses from students because in class there are 21 students in my class, so there are 20 responses, but in this case I just quote one response from the students. I think the implications of my experience is that we have to share our authority, yeah, with the students to provide them with the space, yeah, to to show their their knowledge, yeah, their skills, yeah, so that there will be what we call a dialogue between the teacher and the students. Okay. And from this response, I see that the students are happy with this teaching strategy, yeah, because they have they have authority, yeah, to to show, yeah, who they are, yeah, in this case. And I think it is one of the ways to to lead them to be autonomous learners. Yeah. And for me, learning autonomy is the final target of every teacher and lecturers, yeah, in this teaching and learning activity. I think that's all, but Yesi, thank you very much for joining. Yeah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Prof. Joko. It's really motivational, I think, because as educator, we have to think about what is our position once again. Okay, we already have Prof. Joko, so let's give big applause for him. Thank you. The rest will be virtual applause, so we cannot hear directly, but we can see the enthusiasm over here. And we are now move on to the question and answer sessions. I believe that some of the speakers already have read from the chat box, but I'd like to reread. We will have 15 minutes at least, yeah, Pak Heri, to discuss. For the first question, we have Fujiono. He asked how to give a solution if we found the learners boring in task repetition task. Task repetition class. So it's supposed to go to Dr. Comrades. And then the second from Dieni Zamzami. Dear committee, I was wondering, could we get the materials from the speakers? I believe it's already answered. Yes, later it will be uploaded, right, Pak Heri, in our website. So we go to the third one from Kusti Ayu Made Rai Swarniti. Dear Miss He, there are a lot of benefits of reading books, especially for children. The problem is how to persuade the children to read books. All right, then the next is from Maria Safrianti for Miss Sabrina as well. How can we motivate children who have less reading habits? So it's quite a similar question. And then from Eka Nafilatul, for Ms. Sanhe as well, could we also utilize the e-book for extensive reading actives to children? And how could we do that? And then that's from the chat box, and we still invite Bapak Ibu to ask question. You may raise your hand as well. And you can also access the attendance list on the chat box. So I believe so far only this. So we're going to invite speakers to answer or to give response for the questions. So we go to Dr. Comrades first. Would you please respond?
Okay, thank you. In previous research on task repetition, it has been addressed, right? Whether students become demotivated. Now, you have to change some aspects of the task, like the interlocutor, for example, okay? Or maybe change some of the elements in the task. For example, there's one study that used, so in the task, the researcher asked participants to guess according to objects in the bag, who or what kind of person or what job do you think this person does, right? And in each iteration, the researcher changed maybe one or two objects in the bag, all right, to mix it up. So the purpose and configuration, the configuration of the purpose has not really changed much, okay? But it has changed. And so if you use procedural repetition, and task iteration according to Diane Lawson Freeman, then the repetition is not exactly the same. Okay, there are always some differences in each iteration of the task. Now, it would get boring if you repeat the task 5 or 6 times, okay, over a long period. Okay, but if it's completed in one class session, for example, like a poster carousel kind of a task where you have to present your poster with students in one session, and there you might have to repeat your presentation 5 or 6 times. It's completed there, it helps improve fluency, and it ends in that class session. You wouldn't perform the same task again the next time. So to answer the question, so focus on what is called procedural repetition, and the meaning of task iteration by Diane Lawson Freeman, as opposed to identical task repetition.
Okay, thank you. And the next, we will invite Dr. Sunhe. Sunhe, I'm
Yes.
sorry. Dr. Sabrina, that's easier for me to pronounce. Because you've got 3 questions, but 2 of them are almost the same, reading habit. So please give your response.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your questions. I think in terms of reading motivation, this is a very critical question even for kids, because if they are not interested in, you couldn't force them to sit there and be with you to read for 15 or 20 minutes. So usually you can use some topics they are interested in. For example, some kids are very interested in dinosaurs. So you may use some picture books, as a start to really elicit their interest or motivation in reading. And from there, you may ask their questions, to engage extended conversation, ask them something. So kids can bear these kind of questions to search for answers themselves using other books or, other kind of reading materials. I think from there will be a very healthy circle, some reading, ignition of reading, motivation, then lead to more readings. I think this is probably something quite useful. So besides topics, the specific titles, you can choose, parents or teacher can choose for the kids. You can also ask them to choose specific genre. Some kids are very interested in stories, some kids are really interested in scientific kind of books, so nonfiction materials. So I think, you need to really get to know your students, your kids, and then choose some materials from there. Yeah, that's my answer. Thank you.
Okay, another one regarding the reading habit for extensive reading activities for children.
Yeah, I think there's a question about online materials, right? There are a lot of free ebooks. Am I talking about that question or something else?
Yeah, the next question is, do you think we can also utilize the ebook for extensive reading for children?
I think for sure, because you can have intensive reading, means that you'll be there. You can also have extensive reading, because as I mentioned, if children are very interested in one type of book, they probably go visit this book again. Then you can probably, search whether this type of, prototype has some, a series. Then you can encourage kids to read this series of books. I know some quite interesting adventure stories, fictions for kids. So in that case, in that sense, kids can follow this main character and to explore the world or whatever, adventures. So then eventually this can turn to be extensive reading.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, do we have participant raising hands? No, we don't think so, because the rest, the chat, they just say thank you. So I will not read it for you, but big appreciation for all of the distinguished speakers. All right, we still have a minute before we close the plenary discussion. So we would like to invite Dr. Mazura to give like a closing statement. Would you please? Like the summary of what we've discussed just now.
Hi, I am still here. Okay, I just completed my seminar with a bunch of lecturers, and I would like to thank Universitas Muhammadiyah for inviting us. But what I see is the topics that we have presented today by the panel of speakers are quite extensive, and is a variety, starting from reading, and then for me in terms of the perspective of corpus linguistics using tools, and then we have assessment by prof, and then I feel that this extensive variety, the variety of topics is in line with the theme that we have chosen for this seminar. And I would like to congratulate Universitas Muhammadiyah for this pleasant event on a Saturday. And we hope that the students are able to benefit from all the presentation given by the plenary speakers. And we welcome more invitation where we can share ideas and research findings in some cases with the students. One thing I realized that empirical evidence is very important, and it is wonderful to see that some of the speakers base their presentation on empirical evidence and all types of researches that they have conducted on their respective topics. To the students of Universitas, especially Unimas, especially from the Faculty of Languages and Bahasa dan Budaya Asing, please ingrain in yourself the latest or the creative language learning language learning activities or initiatives, just like the panel of speakers have conducted in yourself, and then impart it and conduct it or apply it, all these techniques, creative techniques, in your teaching and learning daily with the students, especially if you are becoming educators. Okay, and I wish everybody the best of luck. And thank you to the plenary speakers for the wonderful talks, and to the Jawatan Kuasa organizers. Thank you again for inviting us, and we hope to see you again. Thank you. And I would like to congratulate everybody for this wonderful event. It's very beneficial and very educational. And can I end with this? What's sculptured to a block of marble, education is to the human soul. So we hope that the event, especially the preliminary session, has been an educational journey to everybody, especially the participants as well as the students. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Please just stay in a minute because we're going to have photo session. Right, we're going to invite the closing statement from Pak Aslam. Dr. Aslam, would you please?
Thank you again, Bu Jessica, someone that I know for many years, because when I went there for the first time, I met you there. And also Bu Aima, Pak Dodi and Pak Harry, and of course, all the plenary speakers. Some of you I've met, especially Pak Joko, the president of TEFLIN. It's nice to be always getting connected. Now, what I want to share is that I think we have a range of presentation from the five of us, and in a different perspectives. But the most important is that we are all working towards finding the X factor. So I'm still using the word the X factor in education, because the X factor will be there forever, because we are doing research every day, every time, finding one of the best solutions for whatever context we are in education. And it's also it's very important that all practitioners, teachers and participants, academics, and even students in the universities, we need to understand that education is something that is evolving all the time. So that's why I like to use the term, one head doesn't fit all, and it's very important that we keep on looking for solutions which are contextualized, because at the end of the day, we need to understand that learning is so crucial for the learners. I mean, yes, teaching, but focusing on learning is so important. And we need to find new ways, new challenges, new opportunities new challenges we are facing, and seek new opportunities to ensure that learning takes place to the most level at any time, whether you are in the city or you are in the desa or a village, whatever it is. Just keep on toiling and finding the right solution for your learners based on what we have, and all the stakeholders, the communities, the policy makers, everyone has to come as one great formidable team to ensure that learning takes place. And I would say, especially to all the Indonesians, ibu-ibu dan bapak-bapak, sebagai pendidik, kita harus memperjuangkan yang terbaik untuk anak-anak di Indonesia. Ya, di mana-mana di anak-anak di Indonesia, kita harus berjuang untuk kebaikan pendidikan, kerana anak-anak merupakan generasi yang akan datang, dan untuk bangsa Indonesia kita harus berjuang sehabis-habisan untuk anak-anak Indonesia. So itu nasihat saya kepada semua pendidik di Indonesia. So once again, thank you very much. It is a great honor to be here, listening to all the plenary speakers, and also thank you to University Muhammadiyah for inviting me again, and thank you to all the organizing committee, a great organizing committee, because you have put in so much efforts. We all are so so committed, so dedicated, and I'm sure University Muhammadiyah will rise to the occasion and selalu sukses, inshallah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you. Prof. Joko, would you like to give closing statement?
It's all right. Just short. Yeah. Okay. Following Paulo Freire's ideas, Vygotsky, Bandura, and so on. As a teacher, we have to be democratic in our teaching. Yeah, providing the students with the room, the opportunity to express their idea, their belief, their argument. So there should be a room for dialogue between teacher and students. This is what we call democratic education. Thank you, Mbak Yesi.
Democratic education. Thank you, Prof. Okay, closing statement from Dr. Comrades or Sunher? Or should be enough? All right, so probably it's already mentioned before. So, Bapak, Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, we come up to the end of our plenary session. Thank you once again for all distinguished speakers. Big applause for all of you, and thank you very much. So as a highlight, it's a reminder for everyone in this Zoom room that we are, as an educator, we have to be more creative and innovative. And of course, we have to disrupt ourselves, adjust with the technology, with the condition, with the pandemic, everything. And let's put our students also as part of our learning community. So from now, thank you very much for your attention. And I do apologize if probably I have mispronounced in names and everything. Until then, I'm going to give the time to Bu Aima. Thank you very much. I'll see you again sometimes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ibu Mazura, Pak Homrad, Ibu Sabrina, Pak Aslam, and Prof. Joko. I'm very fascinated with your thought. And thank you, Bu Jess, for the engaging session. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's all our conference today. Hopefully you enjoy with this conference. Before we proceed to the parallel session at 1 p.m., we would like to remind you to check the chat box since we provide you with the URL of each Zoom room for your parallelization and the link for your attendance list. For the participant, you may check the program book to see the topic you are interested in to join the rooms. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Fakultas Bahasa dan Budaya Asing, Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang, we would like to thank all distinguished speakers and all participants for joining this conference. Our gratitude also goes to the Rector of Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang for his full support. Thanks the committee of this conference, you all did a great job. Ladies and gentlemen, we also would like to remind you to stay safe and healthy, stay happy during the outbreaking pandemic. And now we are still with all panelists on the screen for having the photo session. Please turn on your camera till we set up. Okay, started from slide 1. Okay, go to the next slide. Yes, the next one. Oke, nggak apa-apa mas, di skip aja. Lamaan nanti. Okay, the next one. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we believe that opportunities should be made and changes should be pursued. By the completion of this program, we all hope that you have gained insightful and enlightening experiences. Enjoy your day and see you at 12:50 p.m. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Coba. Kerataan.
Station, is it the same?
Assalamualaikum. Halo mahasiswa baru Fakultas Bahasa dan Budaya Asing. Apa kabar? Semoga di tengah pandemi ini kita semua senantiasa diberikan kesehatan oleh Allah Subhanahu wa taala. Nah, teman-teman semua pasti sudah tidak sabar untuk memulai pembelajaran kan? Eits, sebelum itu tak lengkap rasanya kalau kita tidak berkenalan terlebih dahulu dengan kampus dan fakultas kita tercinta. Sebagian dari teman-teman mungkin sudah mengunjungi Unimus, namun sebagian yang lain mungkin belum. Jadi jangan khawatir. Fakultas Bahasa dan Budaya Asing sudah menyiapkan video guna mengajak teman-teman semua untuk melakukan orientasi kampus dan fakultas secara virtual. Jadi, apa kalian sudah siap? Yuk kita mulai.
Saya lagi Mintan.
Kira lagi dulu nih. Terus kita
Gedung yang terletak di bagian depan Unimus ini adalah Gedung Rektorat. Gedung Rektorat merupakan tempat pelayanan administrasi akademik dan kemahasiswaan, pendaftaran, serta ruang berkantor bagi rektor dan jajarannya. Gedung berlantai 5 ini dilengkapi dengan lift kaca yang menampilkan pemandangan halaman di Unimus. Jadi, tidak perlu khawatir lelah naik tangga ataupun merasa sumpek di dalam lift. Selanjutnya ada Gedung Labkes dan Gedung Energi. Dua gedung ini merupakan tempat belajar mahasiswa Fakultas Ilmu Keperawatan dan Kesehatan serta Fakultas Kesehatan Masyarakat. Satu lagi gedung di Unimus yang tak kalah ikonik, yaitu Ponpes Kiai Haji Sahlan Rosyidi yang merupakan asrama putri bagi mahasiswa baru di Unimus. Di bagian selatan Ponpes ada gazebo yang bisa digunakan untuk belajar, so it will be a comfortable place for you to study. Unimus juga memiliki gedung serbaguna yang biasa digunakan sebagai tempat olahraga indoor, pementasan drama dan teater, serta sebagai tempat wisuda. Waktunya sholat. Yuk sholat jamaah di Masjid At-Taqwa Unimus. Masjidnya megah dan nyaman. Nah, ini dia Gedung Kuliah Bersama yang merupakan tempat belajar mahasiswa Fakultas Bahasa dan Budaya Asing. Di lantai 1 ada perpustakaan Unimus yang sudah terakreditasi A loh. Ruangannya tertata rapi, nyaman, dan dilengkapi dengan buku, artikel, jurnal, serta banyak juga referensi untuk mengerjakan skripsi loh. Pastinya kalian bakal betah deh berlama-lama di perpus. Naik ke lantai 5 yuk. Ruangan kelas di Fakultas Bahasa dan Budaya Asing dilengkapi dengan AC dan LCD. Jika kalian memiliki pertanyaan terkait pelayanan akademik, di lantai 7 ada admin yang siap membantu. Di lantai 7 Gedung Kuliah Bersama juga terdapat ruang pimpinan dan dosen FBBA. Mahasiswa bisa bimbingan dan konsultasi dengan nyaman di ruang dosen. Jangan takut konsultasi guys, dosen FBBA ramah-ramah kok. Siapa bilang mahasiswa FBBA tidak berprestasi? Nih buktinya, pialanya banyak loh guys. Selain itu, ada juga lab bahasa sebagai sarana penunjang pembelajaran mahasiswa FBBA. Tidak perlu khawatir dengan mata kuliah praktek, karena fasilitas komputer dan software di lab bahasa sudah lengkap, sehingga memudahkan proses belajar mengajar. Ada pula lab CBT yang dilengkapi dengan total 200 unit komputer dalam satu ruangan. Jangan lupa makan dan minum di kantin Unimus ya, karena belajar butuh tenaga. Anyway, Unimus juga punya minimarket 2 lantai. Di lantai 1 menjual keperluan mahasiswa, di lantai 2 ada kafe untuk bersantai. Jika kalian punya hobi olahraga, pas banget nih. Unimus punya sport center yang mendukung kita untuk mengembangkan minat dan bakat. Satu lagi, tempat yang wajib diketahui oleh mahasiswa baru, pusat kegiatan mahasiswa. Tempat bagi kalian untuk mengembangkan potensi diri dalam organisasi. Gimana guys? Makin gak sabar kan buat ketemu teman-teman baru di kampus? Assalamualaikum. Halo mahasiswa baru Fakultas Bahasa dan Budaya Asing. Apa kabar? Semoga di tengah pandemi ini kita semua senantiasa diberikan kesehatan oleh Allah Subhanahu wa taala. Nah, teman-teman semua pasti sudah tidak sabar untuk memulai pembelajaran kan? Eits, sebelum itu tak lengkap rasanya kalau kita tidak berkenalan terlebih dahulu dengan kampus dan fakultas kita tercinta. Sebagian dari teman-teman mungkin sudah mengunjungi Unimus, namun sebagian yang lain mungkin belum. Jadi jangan khawatir. Fakultas Bahasa dan Budaya Asing sudah menyiapkan video guna mengajak teman-teman semua untuk melakukan orientasi kampus dan fakultas secara virtual. Jadi, apa kalian sudah siap? Yuk kita mulai! Gedung yang terletak di bagian depan Unimus ini adalah Gedung Rektorat. Gedung Rektorat merupakan tempat pelayanan administrasi akademik dan kemahasiswaan, pendaftaran, serta ruang berkantor bagi rektor dan jajarannya. Gedung berlantai 5 ini dilengkapi dengan lift kaca yang menampilkan pemandangan halaman di Unimus. Jadi, tidak perlu khawatir lelah naik tangga ataupun merasa sumpek di dalam lift. Selanjutnya ada Gedung Labkes dan Gedung Energi. Dua gedung ini merupakan tempat belajar mahasiswa Fakultas Ilmu Keperawatan dan Kesehatan serta Fakultas Kesehatan Masyarakat. Satu lagi gedung di Unimus yang tak kalah ikonik, yaitu Ponpes Kiai Haji Sahlan Rosyidi yang merupakan asrama putri bagi mahasiswa baru di Unimus. Di bagian selatan Ponpes ada gazebo yang bisa digunakan untuk belajar, so it will be a comfortable place for you to study. Unimus juga memiliki gedung serbaguna yang biasa digunakan sebagai tempat olahraga indoor, pementasan drama dan teater, serta sebagai tempat wisuda. Waktunya sholat, yuk sholat jamaah di Masjid At-Taqwa Unimus. Masjidnya megah dan nyaman. Nah, ini dia gedung kuliah bersama yang merupakan tempat belajar mahasiswa Fakultas Bahasa dan Budaya Asing. Di lantai 1 ada perpustakaan Unimus yang sudah terakreditasi A loh. Ruangannya tertata rapi, nyaman, dan dilengkapi dengan buku, artikel, jurnal, serta banyak juga referensi untuk mengerjakan skripsi loh. Pastinya kalian bakal betah deh berlama-lama di perpus. Naik ke lantai 5 yuk. Ruangan kelas di Fakultas Bahasa dan Budaya Asing dilengkapi dengan AC dan LCD. Jika kalian memiliki pertanyaan terkait pelayanan akademik, di lantai 7 ada admin yang siap membantu. Di lantai 7 gedung kuliah bersama juga terdapat ruang pimpinan dan dosen FBBA. Mahasiswa bisa bimbingan dan konsultasi dengan nyaman di ruang dosen. Jangan takut konsultasi guys, dosen FBBA ramah-ramah kok. Siapa bilang mahasiswa FBBA tidak berprestasi? Nih buktinya, pialanya banyak loh guys. Selain itu, ada juga lab bahasa sebagai sarana penunjang pembelajaran mahasiswa FBBA. Tidak perlu khawatir dengan mata kuliah praktek, karena fasilitas komputer dan software di lab bahasa sudah lengkap, sehingga memudahkan proses belajar mengajar. Ada pula lab CBT yang dilengkapi dengan total 200 unit komputer dalam satu ruangan. Jangan lupa makan dan minum di kantin Unimus ya, karena belajar butuh tenaga. Anyway, Unimus juga punya minimarket 2 lantai. Di lantai 1 menjual keperluan mahasiswa, di lantai 2 ada kafe untuk bersantai. Jika kalian punya hobi olahraga, pas banget nih. Unimus punya sport center yang mendukung kita untuk mengembangkan minat dan bakat. Satu lagi, tempat yang wajib diketahui oleh mahasiswa baru, pusat kegiatan mahasiswa. Tempat bagi kalian untuk mengembangkan potensi diri dalam organisasi. Gimana guys? Makin gak sabar kan buat ketemu teman-teman baru di kampus?
Tantangan besar bagi perguruan tinggi saat ini adalah bagaimana mempersiapkan generasi muda untuk menghadapi tuntutan kemajuan zaman. Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang hadir tak hanya mengejar ranking, namun juga mencetak lulusan yang turut berkontribusi pada ekonomi dan kemajuan sosial, serta berorientasikan pada kelompok lintas multidisiplin ilmu. Memiliki visi menjadi universitas yang unggul, berkarakter berbasis teknologi, dan berwawasan internasional, Unimus memiliki 8 fakultas yang terus melakukan inovasi pembelajaran guna menghasilkan lulusan yang siap menghadapi tantangan globalisasi. Fakultas-fakultas tersebut diantaranya Fakultas Ilmu Keperawatan dan Kesehatan, S2 Sains Laboratorium Medis, S2 Keperawatan, Profesi Nurse, S1 Ilmu Keperawatan, D3 Keperawatan, S1 Gizi, D3 Gizi, S1 Teknologi Pangan, D4 Analis Kesehatan, D3 Analis Kesehatan, D3 Kebidanan, S1 Kebidanan dan Pendidikan Profesi Bidan. Fakultas Kedokteran, Profesi Dokter, S1 Kedokteran. Fakultas Kesehatan Masyarakat, S1 Kesehatan Masyarakat. Fakultas Bahasa dan Budaya Asing, S1 Sastra Inggris, S1 Pendidikan Bahasa Inggris. Fakultas Matematika dan Ilmu Pengetahuan Alam, S1 Statistika, S1 Pendidikan Matematika, S1 Pendidikan Kimia. Fakultas Teknik, S1 Teknik Elektro, S1 Teknik Mesin, S1 Informatika. Fakultas Ekonomi, S1 Akuntansi, S1 Manajemen, dan Fakultas Kedokteran Gigi, Profesi Dokter Gigi, S1 Kedokteran Gigi. Terletak di Kota Semarang, Jawa Tengah, Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang memiliki posisi yang strategis karena terletak di pusat kota dan ibu kota Provinsi Jawa Tengah. Guna mendukung iklim pembelajaran yang kondusif, Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang menyediakan berbagai fasilitas sebagai sarana untuk beribadah, berkumpul, berdiskusi, ataupun menggali ide tentang perkuliahan seperti perpustakaan, akreditasi A, CBT, Gedung Pusat Kegiatan Mahasiswa, Gedung Serbaguna, Asrama Unimus, Ponpes Putri Kiai Haji Sahlan Rosyidi, Unimus Medical Center, Masjid At-Taqwa Muhammadiyah Jawa Tengah, taman dan gazebo, serta sport center seperti lapangan tenis, lapangan basket, lapangan futsal, panjat tebing, dan lainnya. Area parkir yang luas, Unimus Smart. Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang berdiri kokoh di atas tanah seluas lebih dari 14 hektar yang tersebar di beberapa lokasi. Selain kampus terpadu 1 dan 2 di Jalan Kedung Mundu Semarang, Unimus juga memiliki kampus 3 Wonodri, kampus 4 Kasipah, kampus 5 Laboratorium Kesehatan Masyarakat yang berlokasi di Wonolopo, serta Pondok Tahfizul Quran untuk pesantren mahasiswa Unimus penghafal Quran. Memiliki visi menjadi universitas yang unggul, berkarakter, berbasis teknologi, dan berwawasan internasional, mendorong Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang untuk selalu maju dan berkembang, baik dalam aspek pembangunan fasilitas fisik, tridharma perguruan tinggi, maupun perkembangan lembaga, termasuk proses peningkatan peringkat akreditasi institusi. Saat ini akreditasi Unimus telah mendapatkan akreditasi B dari BAN PT dan terus berkomitmen menuju akreditasi unggul, membentuk insan berintegritas secara akademik, spiritual, moral, dan kecakapan teknologi. Unimus, a university for the excellence.
Tantangan besar bagi perguruan tinggi saat ini adalah bagaimana mempersiapkan generasi muda untuk menghadapi tuntutan kemajuan zaman. Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang hadir tak hanya mengejar ranking, namun juga mencetak lulusan yang turut berkontribusi pada ekonomi dan kemajuan sosial serta berorientasi pada kelompok lintas multidisiplin ilmu. Ada 8 fakultas di Unimus yang terus melakukan inovasi pembelajaran demi menghasilkan lulusan yang siap menghadapi tantangan globalisasi. Fakultas-fakultas tersebut diantaranya Fakultas Ilmu Keperawatan dan Kesehatan, Fakultas Kedokteran, Fakultas Kesehatan Masyarakat, Fakultas Bahasa dan Budaya Asing, Fakultas Matematika dan Ilmu Pengetahuan Alam, Fakultas Teknik, Fakultas Ekonomi, dan Fakultas Kedokteran Gigi. Masuk Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang bisa lewat jalur tes atau melalui jalur prestasi, meliputi penelusuran siswa berprestasi, pemikat, penelusuran minat dan bakat, jalur bebas tes tulis. Tersedia pula beasiswa Probea, program mahasiswa Duafa dan Perkoni, penelusuran atlet KONI, serta jalur khusus bagi kader Muhammadiyah dan para hafiz. Bidik misi atau Kartu Indonesia Pintar. Hubungi bagian PMB di kampus Jalan Kedung Mudu Raya nomor 18 Semarang atau klik pmb.unimus.ac.id. Unimus, a university for the excellent.